It's the Audible with Joshua Cole Allen, live on Bucs Report.
Welcome to the Audible special draft preview edition. We are less than 2 days now, past the 8 o'clock mark, 2 days away from the kickoff of the NFL draft. I don't know about you guys. I'm excited it's here. Excited to see what the World Championship Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to do with the number 32nd pick overall. And that's what we'll do here. We'll take a look at different options they have, different players that could intrigue them, not only in the first round, but in the later rounds. But first, before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to my co-host, the one, the only, the prodigy of Hard Count Football Podcast. He is Jacob Charnow. Jacob, how are we doing tonight?
What's
Long time no see.
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I know it's been quite a while, Joshua, but yeah, I'm doing fantastic. Draft night. What are we? 47 and a half hours away ish from pick number one. So, guys, don't get too excited, but I think this draft is going to be a very eventful one. I think we're going to see a lot of trades. I think we're going to see a lot of surprise picks. It's gonna be exciting. I'm really looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, I'm super excited, and we're going to dive into some draft knowledge. We've got some great guests. Pro Football Focus's own Austin Gayle from the host of 2-for-1 Drafts. He's also the associate director of content there, so we'll have him in here. He's going to bring some great stuff. We'll have Ben Linsey, too, as well, analyst. They'll both be on joining the show. We'll break down these prospects, these rankings, some differences in big boards that we're seeing and how they went about stacking their own big boards. We'll get into all of that. We're also going to do a live 7-round mock draft right here as well with your guys' help in the comments. If you want, I can drop the link. Y'all can come on up here and we can talk some draft, get your voices heard. But during that mock draft, it's going to be awesome. We'll have it right up here on the screen, and we'll go through rounds 1 through 7, make trades if we want to, select players, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get into it, and I can't wait for the draft. We're just almost here. I've got my notes ready. I've got everything ready to go, and I just want it to be here already. Jacob, what are your feelings? I know you're a Jets fan, number 2 overall, number 23. Number 34 as well. What are your thoughts on getting into this draft?
You kicked me out.
Technical difficulties.
I'm back. What's up, guys? So as a Jets fan, man, I'm really looking forward to this draft. And pick number 2, I feel like it's Zach. It has to be Zach Wilson. There's no one else that it would make any sense for them to take. Wilson's the guy, BYU quarterback. He does it all. He fits this offense that Robert Saleh is bringing in, Michael LaFleur, the offensive coordinator. I think where you see more drama with the Jets is around pick 23 and 34. I see a lot of Jets fans want to go offensive line there. I see a lot of Jets fans want to go corner. Personally, I know if you just finished watching the Hard Count Football Podcast live, where we did our mock draft with Josh and Andrew Faubert, I actually had the Jets picking Najee Harris, which, looking back, AVT was on, Elijah Vera Tucker was on the board, and I highly regret that. But personally, I think that interior offensive line is a big need for this team. Alex Lewis isn't fantastic. Greg Van Roten certainly wasn't great last year. I think there's a lot of, Wyatt Davis, man, Creed Humphrey, Landon Dickerson. There's a lot of talent. And then Elijah Vera Tucker, I doubt he's there at 23. But these are all names to watch out for the Jets at 23. And then at 34, I think they go flip of whatever they didn't take at 23. I think they go corner either at 23 or 34. That's the other pick. Josh, as a Bucs fan, listen, I'm a Jets fan. I know there's a lot. The draft is a big time for me, especially, right? You look at prospects. You want to rebuild this team. This team is in a rebuild. As with a team that just won the Super Bowl, how are you feeling going into this draft?
I'm feeling excited, and you know what? Let's kind of get into this as well. And I've got up right now my mock draft to see kind of what I had kind of going on for this team. And with no real needs, no real holes on the team, I see them being, big movers and shakers throughout this draft. I can see them trading up, trading down. Now, I kind of went trade crazy in here just to show what they could do. But this is a great place to start with some of the prospects I have on the board for them, some of the guys that I really like, and we'll kind of get through that. So obviously at 32, I have them trading back with Washington. Washington has been rumored to be enamored with Davis Mills. I have them giving up 32 and 217, their 6th-round pick, in exchange for Washington's 2nd and 3rd rounder. Great value, allows them to have great flexibility. And I think that some of the guys that they could target right here at pick at pick 32 might still be on the board for them at 51. I think when you start looking, especially at pass rushers, these guys are all kind of grouped in the same area. So at 51, I have them actually trading back again. The Indianapolis Colts move up. They're kind of moving up, leapfrogging what would be normally a Washington team, but the Chicago Bears is a team they'd be leapfrogging and securing a tackle in front of those guys. I don't think they go tackle in the 1st round potentially, and you definitely want to get in front of the Bears who could use them. I get them getting a 4th round pick next year. So it brings me to the first pick. Interior offensive lineman, center guard Quinn Miners of Wisconsin Whitewater. We know how much Jason Light loves these small school prospects, right? He absolutely loves them. Ali Marpet, Alex Kappa. I think this is another guy right here that could be an absolute stud for the team. He might need a little bit of time, but the guy didn't. One of the biggest things about this guy is he didn't actually play center at all in college. He played guard. But what he did is he taught himself how to play center, taught himself how to snap. He went to the Senior Bowl and just blew scouts away, was dominant in every single day of practice. And mind you, he did so with a broken hand. After that, since that, the whole pre-draft process, as I have saying here, he's made a solid name for himself, jumped from like a 5th, maybe a 4th, 5th round guy, all the way into the 2nd round. I don't think he falls out of there. I think at 54 right here is definitely great value for him. Addressing the interior line where you have Ryan Jensen and a guy like Alex Kappa, both in contract years, is a good move for them. And I think that it sets himself up next year to have that flexibility. And, for goodness sake, if anything would have happened to Jensen, there's no true center on the roster right now. So it makes sense to address a position that can play both of them. He's got that mean, nasty streak, good athleticism. One thing that I will say about him, he can improve his footwork a little bit, and he leans a little bit too much forward on the snap, on the ball. But that's because, he's self-taught. We've got a great offensive line coach, could definitely do that. And he's so strong and aggressive that sometimes he can get a little overly aggressive that he ends on the ground. And that's something that, he'll have to definitely look to. Plus the inexperience. I mean, he played D3. So, he held his own and more at the Senior Bowl. So going up against competition, giving you a little sneak peek, given that competition that he had at the Senior Bowl, some of the best in the nation, I think he'll do pretty well at the next level. So kind of moving on through this mock at 64, I actually had them trading up. I think there's some teams ahead of them. Edge rusher is still a position that they could address. I had them trading up here with the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks only have 3 picks in the draft after trading for Jamal Adams and Gabe Jackson. I haven't given them up a 4th rounder. Give you a teaser. Haven't given them a 4th rounder to move up from 64 all the way up to pick 56. And I haven't taken edge rusher Peyton Turner from Houston. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite prospects in this draft. Dynamic, versatile, athletic, explosive, you name it, he's got it. The problem with him and why he's still down. He's down on the board on some people, and we'll get our draft experts in here shortly to kind of go over it, is because he played defensive tackle the first 2 years of his career at Houston, kicked outside, and he got better as the time went on. Houston, unfortunately, was affected by a shortened schedule this season. Only had 6 games. He missed 1 with an injury. Still managed 5 sacks. He's really good. Could use, obviously, like I said, he is raw. Could use a little bit, more seasoning and definitely learn from people. But from the people like JPP and Shaq Barrett, from the get-go, he could come in and be a rotational guy at best, learn from Shaq, learn from JPP, and I really think that he could be a great addition to this edge rushing rotation, and then potentially a starter as well. He doesn't have great speed. He's not gonna chase down run defenders. He's not Devin White that back there running sideline to sideline, but He does the dirty work, sets the edge against the run well, and he's also met with multiple members of the coaching staff, Casey Rogers, Larry Foote, two of those people, line coach, outside linebacker coach. So that's a huge plus right there that they're talking with him, they're engaged, and they like the guy. Pick number 374 that was gained from Washington, that trade back. I have him trading back again with Oakland. I have him trading out with Oakland, 74 and 176, which is their fifth, for 80 and 121. So again, a lot of trades, but what they're doing here is they're improving their draft stock. So they're moving down a bit, but they're also gaining and moving from a pick from 176 to 121. So they're putting themselves in better position to get better players, quite frankly. So I think that's definitely something they could look at. And then I have them taking Davion Nixon from the Iowa Hawkeyes, defensive tackle. This is a guy who was projected as potential first-round pick, has slid all the way down into a potential second or third-round pick. Talking to Mel Kiper last week, he thinks he could be even a fourth-round pick. He's raw. And he's got lapses of where he kind of just disappears, including this past season. He had a really strong start and then kind of just fell off. But he's got great speed, athleticism. As you can see, good leverage, sound technique. He uses his hands to shed blockers, get in the backfield. He's great in run defense as well. Got a lot of upsides, but even for the size of him, he kind of lacks that bulk. Needs to develop some more pass rush moves, and could definitely stand to pick up his get off. Like I said, kind of in and out of plays where he's giving 100% on some plays, kind of 80. But I mean, it's a weak defensive tackle class. He could go higher than this because of that. But at the same time, if people are just looking at the tape and saying, okay, there's some inconsistencies in his game, maybe he falls a little bit. So he's a guy at 95. Ooh, just spoiled the big one. At 95, I had them trading back again with Cleveland. I think from here at 95 into the fourth round pick, I think you're looking at the same type of prospects. Well, there could be a wide receiver there, or maybe a guard there, but they could take. But I have them moving back with Cleveland, getting both 110 and 132. And again, I use the draft tech value trade chart for all these moves. It's something that GMs are using nowadays, and they all match up. Or even the Bucs lose in a couple of them. But I have them going. Here it is. Boom goes the dynamite. Kyle Trask. I have them taking Kyle Trask here in the fourth round pick, number 110 overall. There's a lot of discrepancies on where Kyle Trask can go. Obviously, people had him as a first-round pick. Now he's kind of fallen into that range of, second, third, fourth. I don't think he goes in the second. I think Davis Mills and Kellen Mond are both off the board before him. But I could definitely see him going into the third. Here I have him slip a little bit into the fourth. It could happen. It's early enough in the fourth. I mean, you're looking 95 is the end of the third round. This is pretty much the beginning of the fourth round right here. Actually, no. Yes. So it could potentially happen. We'll see. Obviously on draft day. But Kyle Trask spoken to the Buccaneers numerous times at different levels. Senior day, the Senior Bowl. Numerous Zoom meetings was at his pro day as well. A lot of conversations. And he kind of fits the mold of what Bruce Arians likes. Big body, good arm, quick processor, quick release. Some knocks on him that he's not a true team raiser. He needs good talent around him. But hey, the Buccaneers have good talent around him right now. So and like it says here, he's a true pocket passer. But Brady, the coaching staff they have here, I think it would be a really good environment for him to come in and learn real quick. We're going to run through these last ones because our guest is in the building, and I don't want to keep him waiting because I know he's a very busy man, especially this week. Round 4, we have it was originally number 121 from Vegas. We have the Bucs trading up with Minnesota, giving up 251. They're 7th to move up 3 picks, jump ahead of the Patriots, and grab linebacker Derek Barnes from Purdue. This guy is versatile. He can play with his hand in his dirt. He started as a defensive end, went to outside linebacker. This year they needed an inside linebacker. He moved right in there, was a team captain. He packs a wallop. He's got good vision, good play recognition, athleticism, makes sideline to sideline, ran a 4.5 40. Levante David and Devin White are locked up for the next 2 years, but Kevin Minter is only on a 1-year deal. They have that fourth spot wide open, and they could definitely use someone who plays special teams, which is something that he has done quite a bit in his career with the Boilermakers. He's not the best in zone coverage. He doesn't have the most fluid hips. He can get turned around. by tight ends, and he can sometimes have lapses in judgment where he overreads a play. But I think at this point in the draft, fourth overall, I think fourth round, 119 overall, I think it would be a great selection for him. Number 132, the other fourth they got from Cleveland. I have them trading back again with the Bengals. Bengals move on up, give up their fifth round pick, number 149, and their sixth rounder, number 202. And with that pick, 149, I didn't pick a running back. I didn't pick a wide receiver because I picked someone who's kind of both, and that's Demetri Felton. Hybrid player, can run out of the backfield, can catch the ball, line up in the slot, great vision, great hands. He's very elusive. He has patience to let blocks develop. He's always churning out positive yards. I sound like Todd McShay up here and Mel Kiper. Todd. While he might not have the size to be an every down back or true breakaway speed, he's a willing blocker, but his size limits him. So he best projects as a versatile committee back who can be used as like a gadget player all over the field, kind of like a poor man's Henry Ruggs. And my draft crush, and also Tampa Bay's draft crush, if you look at Pewter Report, Greg Allman, and some of these other mocks around there, Avery Williams out of Boise State with the Broncos. I love this kid. He can play inside cornerback position. He's a punt returner, kick returner, and they even looking at him at playing running back as well. Jason Light has drafted a secondary player in the last 4 drafts. I would expect that to continue. I love this guy. Solid corner, return specialist. He had 9 touchdowns on returns, 5 punts and 3 kickoffs. He had 5 block kicks and a forced fumble as well. Compared himself to a blend of Devin Hester and Matthew Slater. I want this kid on my team. I want him returning kicks. He's talked to the team already. Talked to the special teams coordinator Keith Armstrong. This is a guy I would love to have on my team. Unfortunately, I have him in the 6th. Some people have him in the 7th. I can see a team like the Patriots or special teams guys, maybe even Joe Judge grabbing this guy in the 5th, just because he's going to be that dynamic of a special teams player. We've seen what Matthew Slater can do. And then my Mr. Irrelevant, we kept 259, and we have Alric Johnson of the Iowa Hawkeyes. Mr. Irrelevant, last year's rookie standout, Tristan Wirf's teammate. This program churns out quality offensive linemen, and like a light Jackson who shows flashes in both the passing game and the running game. I feel like he's very one-dimensional. He's going to be a left tackle. Doesn't have much versatility as a swing tackle. Isn't going to play interior for you. But, he can battle out Josh Wells, Brad Seaton, probably ends up on the practice squad. Again, I tell you right here, great lateral mobility, has all the traits of an NFL caliber lineman. But again, we're drafting prospects that need a little bit of time. He demonstrates inconsistent footwork in his sets and anchors that powerful edge rushers can exploit. I like him as number 259, Mr. Irrelevant. With that being said, I'm going to come back over to y'all on StreamYard, and we're going to go out to our guest. I'm very excited to have him on. I know my buddy. I told him, and he might know him, Pat Lane from Pat's Pulpit. I told him I was having this guy, Austin Gayle, on. He's the Associate Director of Content at PFF. He's the host of 2-for-1 Drafts. We're going to get him on here. He's had a busy week. He's going to continue out. But Austin, thank you so much for joining us today. How are we doing other than busy, tired, and crazy?
I think busy, tired, and crazy is the best way to phrase it, man. It's been an absolutely insane week, but we're excited to be on. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you on. We'll have Ben Linsey on as well later on in the show, kind of give us his ideas. It's a PFF type of day here. We're also going to be doing a PFF mock draft simulator too later in the show. So we're fully behind PFF. But talk to me a little bit. What has surprised you the most of this draft? Has it been discrepancies in big boards? Has it been the rises and fallers as of late? Or has it been a combination of everything? Talk to me.
I think the biggest surprise has to be the quarterback discourse. I mean, this has been an insane cycle in terms of us talking ourselves out of Justin Fields, talking ourselves into Mac Jones, talking ourselves into Zach Wilson. I think it's a very interesting quarterback class because there's a ton of good ones. I mean, right now, according to PFF's big board, you have 5 quarterbacks ranked inside the top 15, Trey Lance rounding it out at 10, and then Mac Jones at 13 on PFF's big board. It's wild discourse around the quarterback position. I think a lot of people are talking themselves into Mac Jones being the quote-unquote perfect fit for Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. The perfect fit for Kyle Shanahan is the best quarterback. And in my opinion, that is Justin Fields. According to betting markets right now, you see Mac Jones minus 350 to go to the San Francisco 49ers. I think that's the favorite for a reason. But if I had to pick someone not named Mac Jones to go number 3 overall to San Francisco right now, it would be Trey Lance. I think it's a 2-horse race between those guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to see how this all plays out. We said the draft starts at number 3, and it truly does start at number 3. I think Mac Jones ends up being the pick. Jacob, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying it before. I think Mac Jones is well, what I think they should do and what I think is going to happen are very different things. What I think is going to happen is I think they're going to end up taking Mac Jones. There's things like that get leaked, like Kyle Shanahan saying that he likes Mac Jones. That just doesn't happen, right? That's none of that. There's a reason that gets leaked. If Austin, I completely agree with you. If I'm the Niners, I'm taking Justin Fields. I cannot understand how we talked ourselves out of Justin Fields, guys. Just after that Clemson game, after he beats Clemson, we're talking about him as the clear-cut number 2 pick for the New York Jets, right? And then stuff happens, and then he plays in the championship against Alabama with a Drew Brees amount of broken ribs, and he doesn't perform at the top level, and all of a sudden he's going to fall out of the top 10 and end up in New England. Guys, this is ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. And I'm a big fan of Zach Wilson. I'm a big fan of Trevor Lawrence, but Justin Fields, he does what it takes to be successful in the NFL nowadays. You look around and you see guys like Deshaun Watson. You see guys like Josh Allen. Justin Fields is a big kid, right? And you never scout the helmet. You never scout. Okay, I understand Ohio State quarterbacks have not been successful in the last however long, but Dwayne Haskins was a significantly worse prospect than Justin Fields is coming out of college. Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields were the guys back in 2019. We didn't know who was going to be the 2019 number 1 pick. We didn't know who was going to be the 2020 number 1 pick because Joe Burrow hadn't showed up yet. But we knew who the 2021 quarterback prospects were. We knew it was Trevor Lawrence and we knew it was Justin Fields. And to say that Justin Fields is the number 5 is worse than Mac Jones. Mac Jones is ridiculous. Austin, can you explain to me how we talked ourselves into Mac Jones being one of the top quarterbacks in this draft? Because I cannot understand it, man.
Yeah, it's a wild phenomenon. Like I said, one of the bigger surprises. I do think that, the problem is that Mac Jones is a good quarterback. Mac Jones played at one of the highest levels in college football, was the highest graded quarterback in the SEC we've seen in quite some time. Obviously, Joe Burrow dominated that competition as well. He played a lot of good football this past year. Does he have the tools and the traits of a Fields or a Lance or the 2 top guys in Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson? No, but playing good football, playing high-level football like he did is worth something. The problem is that he's not better than the other prospects here. There's a conversation to be had between Mac Jones and Trey Lance. Trey Lance didn't play high-level competition, only played 1 legit season at North Dakota State, only averaged 18 dropbacks per game. He's largely a projection. Does he have better tools than Mac Jones? Absolutely, but still much more of a projection than what Mac Jones is right now. Where I don't think there is a conversation is who is the better quarterback prospect between Mac Jones and Justin Fields. Justin Fields, in my opinion, I know a lot of other opinions as well, is the best quarterback after Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. And there's an argument to be had that he's the number 2 quarterback in this class. The only reason we're not picking apart Zach Wilson, who, mind you, didn't play that great of competition at BYU either, and is coming off, a very good season, but did not play well in years prior. It has had injuries with the shoulder. The only reason we're not picking him apart is because he's been the consensus number 2 pick since that, pro day in Provo, Utah, where the Jets obviously locked into Zach Wilson and the 49ers traded up to number 3.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really and I think Justin Fields is a better prospect than him. It gets interesting to see if they do go Mac Jones, and I think that press conference yesterday really told me that Mac Jones is the guy. Their key words that they were talking about, and that was, Jimmy Garoppolo, will he be on the roster? I don't know who will be alive on Sunday. We're really looking for – we realized we needed a starter in this league. Lynch saying, it's my decision, but Shanahan's the play caller. I'm going to go with him. And then looking at a guy like Mac Jones and his time with Sarkisian and Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins, and who's the guy who I think can come in day one and start right away, and that's Mac Jones. I think he was one of the most pro-ready guys in this draft. I think Trey Lance needs a year a la Patrick Mahomes, and I think Justin Fields is kind of like in a Tua situation where he's going to need at least the first half of the season to get his bearings under him and then be able to start. And from everything to me is they want someone who can come in and go right from day one, and that's why it's Mac Jones. But shifting gears over here to a little bit more Buccaneers-centric talk, what are you thinking at 32? I mean, it's so hard. Has this been one of the hardest teams for you to mock and to really scout and realize the past couple of years because they truly can go any position?
No, I don't think it's hard. I think it's easy. I mean, they can't really go wrong. I think where they go wrong, obviously, is taking any level of a luxury pick. You know, people talked about the Kansas City Chiefs. They don't have any needs. Let's take a running back. Let's take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And now they're a team that needs help at offensive tackle, wide receiver, corner, linebacker. Tampa Bay Buccaneers have one of the most complete rosters in the NFL. That doesn't mean take your foot off the gas. You know, you have to continue to add high-value players at high-value positions. You know, Donovan Smith, entering the last few years of his deal, can get better at offensive tackle. You can also continue to add in the secondary, continue to add at linebacker. Obviously, Levante David a little bit long in the tooth. Like, add along the defensive line. I don't think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be smart to opt for, say, a box safety running back in this position, even though they could upgrade maybe over Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, whatever it may be. Where I think they lock into is either this pass rusher class, grabbing one of the top 4 edge defenders in this class, or look at offensive tackle, look for an opportunity for a guy who could play guard out of the gate and then maybe kick outside the tackle down the road.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm thinking here, too. Edge rusher makes a lot of sense. The running back position, which I think a lot of people looked at, was because they had Ronald Jones in a contract year. They had a guy like Leonard Fournette and Giovanni Bernard, who they brought in and brought back in contract years. They don't really have anyone there in case of, for the future. And Jason Light pretty much said, this is a draft that we're going to draft luxury, best player available. We're also going to have an eye for the future. So tackle guard would be a really good spot. One guy, and I know, Jacob, we were talking about him on your show a little bit ago, was Elijah Vera Tucker. I've seen him fall a little bit. I've seen him get picked in the top 15. Where do you think, is he a possible landing spot for the Buccaneers at 32, or do you think he's long gone by then?
Yeah, I think that might be a bit of a pipe dream. I'd be really surprised if Elijah Vera Tucker really makes it past the Las Vegas Raiders at 17. I think they'd really love to have him either start him at tackle or even kick him inside to guard. I think he doesn't make it past 17. If not, one of those teams drafting in the 20s. Could be Washington. It could be Chicago. I do think that teams will jump on Elijah Vera Tucker. He doesn't fall far. I think you're better off looking at some of these tackle prospects that maybe aren't going to be the guys in year one, like a Walker Little of Stanford, Sam Cosmi of Texas, Alex Leatherwood, Bama, Dylan Radins, North Dakota State. These guys that maybe you wouldn't project as day one starters in 2021, but guys that you could develop behind Donovan Smith, behind Tristan Wirfs, or even kick inside to get them reps early in their careers.
Now, what about, we've seen a lot recently, is a guy like Landon Dickerson mocked there. And I don't know if you just saw, I have them taking Quinn Miners in my last mock. Is that a position that they could address in the first round? Is that too early, do you think? Obviously for Quinn it is, but for Landon Dickerson?
Yeah, I would lean on the side that it is a bit too early. I'd rather, again, attack a high-value position. The highest paid center in the NFL, Corey Linsley, doesn't make as much as the 20th highest paid edge defender in the NFL. Why are you spending first-round picks on low-value positions when you can go get the highest-ranked, highest paid center for cheap chump change compared to pass rushers? I think you're better off looking at one of the tier 1 pass rushers at the back end of the first. That's Jalen Phillips, Jason Owe, Azeez Ojulari, or obviously Kwity Paye of Michigan. I think a lot of those guys could be off the board by then, but if one of those 4 are available to Tampa Bay at 32, I think that would be a power move as well.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about this also because, as personally, we are here on Bucs Report, but I am a New York Jets fan, and this is a very exciting draft for me as a Jets fan. I know we're talking more about the Bucs, but can you reassure me that as a Jets fan, it's all going to be okay? Because I really need that reassurance. Joe Douglas, he comes in last year. He has a really, really solid draft, right? He gets Mekhi Becton, who obviously is one of the top tackles. He's a monster. They get Denzel Mims. I think, once he's targeted more, that he's going to be a really solid player. Can you reassure me that with the 23 and 34 pick, we know Zach Wilson's the pick at 2, that the Jets are actually going to be able to get high quality players and that Joe Douglas is going to make the right decision from what you've seen?
I mean, from the moves they made in free agency, you have to feel a little bit more confident about the decision-making in New York right now. I think Adam Gase, for more reasons than one, was leading to a lot of bad decision-making and a lot of bad football in the Big Apple over the past few years. And I think, again, I do think that what Robert Saleh and obviously Joe Douglas have done this offseason with adding Sheldon Rankins, adding Corey Davis, adding Carl Lawson, those were all sagent plays. Well above what they did with obviously Le'Veon Bell, paying him that contract, C.J. Mosley paying him that contract. Now, I think they're starting to get a lot smarter with the resources they have. And I think you look at the back end of the first round, the top of round 2, you can get a lot better at corner. I like Greg Newsome as a fit at 23 a ton. You can get a lot better at wide receiver if you want to continue to add to that group. I like Rashad Bateman a lot, whether that's the back end of round 1 or top of round 2. They're in a really good position to build around Zach Wilson. I know corner would be awesome, but I think you really have to think about what did we do wrong with Sam Darnold. We failed to build around him. We failed to throw the kitchen sink at building up that offense, developing Zach Wilson. If the Jets defense is the worst defense in the NFL next year, that's okay. What you need is to prop up Zach Wilson and find out if you can win with him, if you can put together a top 10, top 5 offense with him. And I think that starts with throwing more resources at the offense.
Now,
that's definitely reassuring, Austin. I mean, I definitely need it. I definitely need something like that to happen because I've dealt with misery of being a Jets fan way too long. Josh, you had a question for him. Go.
Yeah. Now let's say a lot of Bucs fans, myself included, want the Buccaneers to trade down from this pick, gain some either draft capital that puts them in a position to get more high quality players for this year, because really they're drafting for depth, future needs, high end depth as well at a few positions, and you mentioned them: edge. Obviously, offensive line with some uncertainties of free agents next year. Cornerback is another one. Let's say they do move back. Some of these other pass rushers in the second round that could be there, whether it's a Peyton Turner, who's kind of like one of my draft crushes here, or a Joseph Osai, who I've seen falling around, Ronnie Perkins. Talk to me a little bit about these guys, their fits with Tampa Bay, and just their skill set in general, and Carlos Boogie Basham as well.
I do feel like if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are locking into offensive tackle or pass rusher, I think staying put at 32 and taking one of those guys there, I think makes more sense to me than potentially trading back. However, if they're moving away from that position or don't like the players available at those positions at 32, trading back and taking advantage of some of the depth in this class could make sense. I think after tier 1, you're really looking at guys that are going to – it depends on the flavor ice cream you really want. Peyton Turner and Carlos Basham, both those guys are going to be day 2 players that have positional versatility, can get kicked inside on passing downs and do different things for you. Ronnie Perkins and Joseph Osai likely stay on the outside in the NFL, but still need a lot of work, a lot of raw. Like, they're more raw than even the tier 1 guys, more raw than Kwity Paye, more raw than Jason Owe. They need a lot of work, and they don't have nearly the physical tools as the tier 1 guys in this group. And then an interesting name is Rashad Weaver, one of the older prospects in this class. I think he turns 24 here pretty soon, but a guy that I think if you started Rashad Weaver day 1, would be one of the more productive pass rushers in this class. Now, does he have the ceiling of a Khalil Mack or a Von Miller? Absolutely not. But what he can be for you day 1, I think a lot of teams will like. I think I see him as a round 3, round 4 type of player.
Now, where do you see Greg Rousseau going? And you keep mentioning the top 4. Are you pretty much Kwity Paye, Jason Owe, Azeez Ojulari, and Jalen Phillips? And what's the likelihood one of those guys will be there at 32?
Yeah, my opinion of Greg Rousseau is that it's interesting. I talked to him on my podcast multiple times, and he mentioned the fact that he could get into, could add weight pretty easily. He talked about potentially adding weight to the tune of Calais Campbell and being a bigger interior defensive line type, which I don't necessarily hate for him. He's not great laterally. You saw that with his change of direction drills at his pro day, but he's explosive for a guy his size. He's tall and he's long. I think there's ways to win with Greg Rousseau. The problem is that we're still finding those out. We only saw him as a redshirt freshman at Miami, and then from there, we don't know the player he is. He didn't even play really one position at Miami. He was kicked inside, played against guards, played against tackles, done a lot of different things. You need to find what weight are we playing him at and what position are we playing him at. For that reason, I think there are teams that will let him slide to day 2. I think I could see him being a second-round player that really needs to learn a ton. What position he plays, what weight he's playing at, all of those things at the next level. And as for those tier 4, I do think they should have one of those guys available to them at 32. It would be really surprising to see all 4 of those top edge defenders, in my opinion, Kwity Paye, Jason Owe, Jalen Phillips, and Azeez Ojulari, not one of those guys available to the Bucs at 32. But if they aren't, I think that's another opportunity, again, to potentially trade back, add more draft capital.
Yeah, let me ask you about this, because there's a certain prospect, and there's a few prospects in this draft I have questions about. Two in specific. We'll talk about this first one. One name that just a few weeks ago, I see people ranking him as the best corner in this draft. And today, if we were talking about it today, I see him ranked. I see him getting mocked now at the end of the first round, possibly even falling to the second. And that would be Caleb Farley, the corner out of Virginia Tech. What are your opinions on Farley? Do you think his injuries are going to be a problem in the NFL, or do you think that all this is kind of just nonsense and he still gets taken right in the middle of the first round?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of it, none of it's nonsense. He's had 2 back surgeries in the last year, and a lot of them are concerning. They're very similar to back surgeries to what Tony Romo had, and we all know how much those injuries really affected him. And you factor in that you only really saw 1 year of stellar play from Caleb Farley at Virginia Tech. He didn't play a ton of press coverage that season. He did not play near the level of press coverage that J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain did. There are a lot of reasons to be like, man, he's kind of similar to like Trey Lance in some ways, not level of competition, but it's a projection. Like what you want Caleb Farley to be if you draft him in the first round, if you draft him in the first 20 picks, is a lot better and a lot healthier than he was at Virginia Tech. You're betting a lot there. That is betting on a lot of ifs that you not necessarily can control. So I do think that it's not nonsense. I think he ultimately comes off the board in the back end of the first round. I could see the Jets making that decision. I could see Steelers making that decision. Like one of these teams that is willing to bet on Caleb Farley. I think the Saints is an interesting option. I really do like all those guys.
Could the Bucs be a team that takes a chance on him?
That would be one of the more awesome moves of Jason Light. Continuing to throw resources at the secondary, continuing to show that if you just keep dumping every single high value pick you have into the secondary, and he's not going to stop. I mean, he did that with Sean Murphy-Bunting. Vernon didn't stop after Vernon Hargraves, Antoine Winfield Jr., Mike Edwards. I mean, Carlton Davis. Like that is how you win. Secondary is very hard. It's almost like a flash in the pan sometimes. It's very difficult to be consistently good in the secondary unless you have a Jalen Ramsey or a Jair Alexander. There's only a handful of those guys walking planet Earth right now. And if you don't, continuing to add value at those positions and try and swing the bat on those positions, I think is the way to go.
And we see Bill Belichick swing and fail at that numerous times in the second round. It looks like they finally hit on one last year with Kyle Duggar, so out of Lenore. Just a couple other questions too here, and then we'll get you out of here. Who's a guy that's kind of rose up the draft boards that you're really surprised? I think I was surprised to see Jamin Davis rise up so quickly, and then also another guy who's kind of fallen. I talked about Davian Nixon, who was projected as potentially a first round draft pick, and now has fallen out of there. We can talk about obviously Caleb Farley and Greg Rousseau as guys who are projected as number ones at their position, but kind of fell. But who else is there that you've kind of are like, wow, this guy, this doesn't make sense that this guy has fallen down the board so far.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Jamin Davis, his rise, I guess, isn't surprising. I mean, when you test as well as he did at Kentucky, you're going to get teams that are kind of foaming at the bit to go grab a guy that can be, potentially from a ceiling perspective, one of the more athletic coverage linebackers in the NFL. The problem is that he just hasn't done it yet. And another interesting thing is of the top 6 linebackers on PFF's draft board, he's by far played the lowest amount of total career snaps, less than 900 career snaps. All these other linebackers, Jabril Cox, Nick Bolton, Micah Parsons, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, these guys have played a ton. Why, if you have a linebacker like Jamin Davis, who's built like him and runs a 4.39, is he not starting at Kentucky until his senior year? That's a question I want to answer. That's very interesting to me. I'd like to know why he only had 1 year there at Kentucky. Why was a handful of other linebackers, I think it was, I don't remember his name, Cash whatever. Why was this guy starting over Jamin Davis? Why was Jamin Davis on the bench? So I think there's a question there. And then Kelvin Joseph is similar. Both those Kentucky guys are freaky athletes, but why didn't we see it? We need to see it more, both those guys. In terms of a guy that's falling, I mean, Rashad Bateman weighing in at 190 after testing positive for COVID-19 this past year. I'm not concerned with Rashad Bateman's weight at all. No. He's one of the better outside receivers in this draft class. We have him, I think, ranked 18th on our board, yet I'm hearing he could fall to day 2. I'll tell you right now, Rashad Bateman falls to day 2. That's going to be one of the bigger steals of the draft.
And I actually have a question for you on this board because, like I've been saying, there's been so much volatility and so much discrepancies between where players are ranked. If you look at PFF, you have ranks over here. You look at the Beast, you have ranks over here. You go to Draft Network, they have ranks over here. But there's a couple of guys on your list that just pop off to me, and I just kind of wondering about it. So a guy like Najee Harris, number 65 overall on PFF's big board. A guy like Marvin Wilson, number 62 on PFF's big board. Kind of just go through kind of the thoughts on those guys and where a lot of people are talking about Marvin Wilson as a 4th round, 5th round guy. Same thing with Najee Harris as like a 1st round guy, possibly. early second. They have him at 65 and 62. How do you guys develop your big board? Because I know everyone is different. I do see a guy that I love on here, Cameron Sample, in the top 100. Some people have him out of it. But how do you guys develop your big board? And, with such like this, especially in a year like this year, with players opting out, with players catching COVID, no combine. How do you guys develop your big board?
Yeah, right now, I mean, it is a collective process among the analysts here at PFF, but it is ultimately our lead draft analyst, Mike Renner, pulling the final trigger on our big board rankings. And I think as for Najee Harris, a lot of that is just positional value. I think Najee Harris is the top 3 running back in this class. In that, I think he's number 2 on PFF's draft board behind Javonte Williams. And we put him in a tier with Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne. Or number 3 behind Travis Etienne. But we'd put him in that tier of the top running backs in this class. The problem is we're not taking running backs probably till the back end of the second. It just doesn't make a ton of sense with where the market currently values the position and so forth. That's for Marvin Wilson. There's probably more opportunity to move him down the board. I would probably have him a little bit lower than where Mike has finally put him. But I think he's an interesting case of traits versus production. When it's all on for Marvin Wilson, as we saw in 2019, I mean, he was one of the best defensive tackles in the country, if not the best defensive tackles. The problem is, even though he is a former 5-star, this isn't a guy with insane explosiveness, insane anything. He's a guy that won a lot with his hands and won big at Florida State in 2019. And then he talked to me about, having some weight stuff come up and COVID-19 impacting his season. Just wasn't the same guy in 2020. If you get 2019 Marvin Wilson in 2021, you're getting one of the better defensive tackles in this class. It just comes down to, can you see it again after what was not a great 2020 campaign and wasn't a great Senior Bowl either?
Yeah, I got over to Jacob.
I have a question for you about one more prospect that is I still really like him, and I understand why there's criticism, but I want to know what your thoughts are on it. And that would be Devontae Smith, the Heisman winner last year, because we heard about his weight being a problem, right? He's tired of hearing about it. He doesn't go to the weigh-in, stuff like that, right? He's only weighing 165 pounds, something like that, more or less, whatever. Do you actually believe that his size is a problem for Devontae Smith? And do you think he falls because of that? Or do you think that teams really aren't looking at that for the most part?
I mean, I think a problem is an aggressive word. I think concern maybe is what I would say. I mean, being 166 pounds in the NFL isn't easy. Whether it's a problem, a concern, a red flag, I mean, that's the bottom line. Being 166 pounds, playing wide receiver in the NFL is very difficult. That is not easy to do. You're going to need schemed releases. You're going to need to be a technician. And that's what Devontae Smith is. Devontae Smith is the most technically profound wide receiver in this class. It's why he's the number 2 wide receiver on PFF's draft board and a top 10 player in this class. I don't think he gets past the New York Giants at 11. He's not going to fall, in my opinion, much further than what after he won the Heisman. I mean, I think a lot of people seeing him as wide receiver 1 over Jamar Chase, that was a bit overzealous. They didn't realize that he is a little bit thinner and he isn't the same level athlete as Jamar Chase, but he's still a very good receiver in this class. I would put him right there at number 2 behind Jamar Chase in that top tier of receivers in this class. And you talk to cornerbacks that have gone against Devontae Smith, I haven't seen a single quarterback. I talked to Tyson Campbell. I talked to Eric Stokes, Sean Wade, guys that have been absolutely cooked by Devontae Smith. I'll tell you right now, they don't bring up his weight at all. They know they can beat him down every single time.
Yeah, and I think you're kind of looking at that with guys like Tyler Lockett, another guy like T.Y. Hilton, some of these other guys who are smaller guys who get the job done. I've got 2 last questions for you, but both on prospects and then one on the Bucs. Talk to me about Davis Mills and talk to me about Kellen Mond. Obviously, Peter Schrager of NFL, Good Morning Football, NFL Network, and one of his mocks had Davis Mills going to the Bucs. I'm hearing a lot about Davis Mills and the Washington football team. A lot of buzz about Kellen Mond and the Chicago Bears. Could either of these guys go in the second, or could either of them possibly go in the first in a trade-up to get that 5th-year option?
I highly doubt either of those quarterbacks go in the first round. I'd be honestly really surprised to see any team take Davis Mills or Kellen Mond even in the second round. I think Jason Light made some interesting conversation about drafting developmental quarterbacks on day 2, day 3. When you're in a position like the Bucs are, where you have a really good starter and a really good coaching staff that can develop quarterbacks, can allocate resources to developing quarterbacks. Their coaching staff doesn't need to worry about Tom Brady. You think about other teams that are trying to maybe develop a quarterback and develop their starter. It makes it that much harder to bring in a guy like Kellen Mond or J.B. Newman or Davis Mills and develop them. You have to allocate resources. You have to allocate reps in practice to develop these quarterbacks. It's why the XFL and American Alliance League kind of came up, because you're trying to develop these quarterbacks when you don't have that opportunity to do so. The Bucs do. Tom Brady doesn't need reps in practice. He doesn't need development. So you're in that rare position for a reason. I think they would or should swing the bat on one of these guys. I like Kellen Mond more than I do like Davis Mills. I think in round 3, round 4, that's well worth the investment.
What about Trask?
Obviously in a window.
What about Trask to them?
I think Trask right now on PFF's big board is ahead of Kellen Mond and Davis Mills. I think for good reason. I think the biggest thing there is he's developed. Like you've seen Kyle Trask get so much better over the course of his Florida career that you have to think that he's on an upward trajectory. Does he have the tools of a Kellen Mond or even a Jamie Newman? Probably not, but neither does Davis Mills. Davis Mills is a former 5-star for God knows what. He doesn't have that crazy arm. He's not a crazy athlete. I think Davis Mills doesn't do things off platform like some of these other guys are capable of, but really consistent thrower of the football, really on time with a lot of what he does. There's a lot to like there. I think the Bucs, I'd be really surprised if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't take one of those guys in round 3, round 4.
Now, I don't know if you caught the tail end of me breaking down my mock, but my draft crush and one of my sleepers is Avery Williams, DB out of Boise State. Who's been your draft crush, and who are some of your sleepers that you think can just come in and be really strong contributors in the later rounds?
Yeah, I spoke to him a little bit. I think Rashad Weaver of Pittsburgh. I think right now he's PFF's edge 10. He comes out the board round 3, round 4. I think you're getting a guy that plays a lot earlier than people think. And I think another name. Oh my goodness.
A little technical difficulty. Sound like an ambulance or something.
Sorry about that. I had to step away.
No worries.
What I was going to say. I was saying another player I really liked is Lee McNeil. Lee McNeil of NC State, a defensive tackle that I think you take in round 3, round 4. It's another guy that starts a lot earlier than people think.
Okay. Real quick, and then I'll get you out of here. I'm going to ask you about Joe Tryon because you guys have him at 82 on your board. A lot of people have him potentially going number 32. Talk to me about this guy. Talk to me about why you guys have him so low and what could potentially make him a first-round pick. And then I'll ask you who the Bucs might pick at 32.
I mean, the problem with Tryon is just so much of a projection. I mean, I had him on the podcast, and he said he's completely rechanged his diet, completely rechanged the body he has, and he's going to be a completely different player. He doesn't even know how successful he'll be as a pass rusher coming back, obviously, after opting out of the 2020 season. So with that, PFF is rarely going to bet on guys that just don't have high-end production, specifically, at positions where we've seen our grades translate. Pass rusher, quarterback, running back, these positions where there is positive correlations to collegiate success in certain advanced statistics to NFL success. So I do think that Joe Tryon, we haven't seen it from him yet. He hasn't seen him from it yet. So taking a flyer on Joe Tryon any earlier than the second feels a little bit rich to me. I'd even feel more comfortable in the third.
Yeah, and Pro Football Focus, you guys don't know, is definitely the industry leader of advanced analytics. They have the best numbers, the best guys working around the clock, around the year to give you some of the best stats there are. I love the stats that they put out about Tristan Wirfs, last year's rookie for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, first-round pick. But they have another first-round pick, a lot different. It's not in the middle of the round at 15, what they traded it for 14. Now it's at 32. Austin, you're on the clock right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who's the selection at 32?
I really do think I lock into the offensive tackle class. I like Dylan Radins, North Dakota State, Alex Leatherwood of Alabama, or Sam Cosmi of Texas if they're there. If not, I'm looking to that first tier of edge defenders that I spoke to. And then the dark horse is Christian Barmore. If teams let Christian Barmore, defensive tackle Alabama, slide to Tampa Bay, that would be a home run steal for Tampa Bay at 32. I've seen him mocked there a handful of times. I think that would be a sprint the card in situation for Tampa Bay.
Austin, I want to thank you so much for coming on here. Austin is the Associate Director of Content at PFF. He's responsible for putting out some of the amazing stuff that goes out, some of the amazing stats, analytics. He's also one of the co-hosts of 2 for 1 Drafts, which is an amazing podcast. Check it out. They've got some great stuff out now about the draft. Austin, anything else you got going on you'd like to promote yourself?
No, just follow PFF.com. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Austin, is a pleasure. Hopefully we'll speak after the draft and have you break down some of these grades for the Buccaneers. Thanks for your time and have a great day. Awesome, guys. So, boom. Mind blown. PFF's Austin Gayle. A lot of good stuff. A lot of stuff to digest there. Johnny Dean says Pro Football Focus, football's geek squad. Exactly. They've got some great stats. I use them in my shows every week during the season. But Jacob, what did you think? You got some Jets info. We got some good general prospect info, some good Bucs info.
I did, and I'm happy that he agreed with me, and that he is also on this train of why is Justin Fields falling so much on people's boards? Like it makes zero sense to me, right? People have really they're gonna have the Niners taking. I understand that it's likely that they do, but to have Mac Jones and Trey Lance, all these guys who really haven't. I understand Mac Jones showed he played recently. He has some okay tape. Trey Lance really hasn't played, and I'm a big fan of Trey Lance. Justin Fields is so pro ready and ready to go. And to have him ranked, to have him possibly going as the 5th quarterback in this draft is ridiculous, in my opinion. I also really liked, how he reassured me at least a little bit that the Jets would get someone at 23 and 34 that are going to be solid. Greg Newsome, I love Greg Newsome. If he falls to 23, please fall to 23, Greg Newsome, because wow, he's really something else. He's a really great player. I mean, other than that, the guy's got a ton of knowledge. Go check him out at PFF. PFF is kind of the place to be for all this draft knowledge, and I'm sure imagine how busy he is coming up in this couple days.
Oh, yeah. And the thing for me, too, is I talked about it with him is the discrepancies. I mean, if you watched the Audible the past 2 weeks, we had 2 members of the Draft Network, Justin Mello, who's talked to every single one of these prospects, and then Jamie Eisner, who's on the fantasy side, but it also does a lot of draft work for them as well. And the discrepancies in the rankings that they have, their big boards, these players, and then even you bring it to the Athletic and go to Dane Brugler. All these boards have different players at different spots. And it really, as you heard from Austin, how they kind of do theirs is positional value. So while I think that, obviously I think Najee Harris is not, the 65th best player in this draft, as far as positional value, a running back is valued a lot lower than other positions normally. I get where they're going with that. I don't agree with Marvin Wilson at all, but I get where they're going with that.
I think it's interesting how just a few years ago, I mean, we'd be mocking Najee Harris going forward to the Falcons in terms of value, which is crazy. And I think I'll say this: if it was 2018, there is no way that Saquon Barkley would be talked about as number 2 to the Giants.
No, I agree.
That will happen this year. And
I agree.
Drop off in running back, I guess running back value, right? I mean, yeah.
Just because of the value of the position, and you're seeing it and kind of how it breaks down. You're seeing it with some of the contracts that these guys got this season. We're going to run through some comments here because, guys, get ready because we're not done. We've got more PFF. We've got more analytics. We've got more draft breakdown coming up. Real quick here, we're going to have Ben Linsey on. He's an analyst. He's down in the dirt in these numbers, so we're going to get him on here. But let's read through some of these comments. And don't forget, we have our 7-round Bucs mock draft. We're going to have on here very shortly after Ben Linsey comes on here. I'm going to need your help in the audience. Guys, I'll drop this link down here afterwards, too, after Ben comes on. Feel free to pop up on stage. I think we can have, 12 people on stage at a time or 10? One of the two, right? 10 or 12. We'll get all 10 or 12 of you guys up here, and we'll break down this mock. Move down, move up, whatever happens. But let's jump into these comments real quick before our next guest comes on.
I don't do that, guys. Drop comments down in the bottom. If you have any questions for Ben coming in,
yes.
I mean, listen, we have questions. We'd love to hear. If you guys have any questions you want to get answered, it's not every day we get a chance to talk with guys like this. You want your information
before the draft, too.
Right before the draft.
Right before the draft. So, I mean, it's one thing when you talk to these guys like 3 months out and they're still trying to figure out, or even a month ago where they're still trying to figure out. I mean, these guys are getting information from scouts, from teams, from offices, and they know what's going on. They're dialed into some of these guys, some of these picks. So,
it's
definitely
no longer, we're still watching film on him. These guys, they're locked in.
Evaluations are done.
Guys, evaluated, ready to go for Goodell.
So get your questions ready to go for Ben, and we'll try our best to get to all of them. John Gonzalez says, hello, John. Johnny Dean said, make 50 picks, and it's a luck shot to get 12 right. Yeah, that's how it is. But, I mean, you look at it, there's 259 picks this year. I kind of talked about it earlier about, you'll be lucky if 59 of those guys are starters. That leaves 200 players who are nothing more than role players or out of the NFL altogether. So
I'll say this. I think more players now are ready to play than more guys coming out of college are NFL ready than as the years go on, more and more guys are NFL ready to go.
Absolutely. Lil Wayne says, solid, my man. Wayne, how we doing? Thanks for tuning in. Besides Lawrence, Pitts is the best. I would agree with that. I have Pitts number 2. And if you look at Dane Brugler and the Beast, he's got Pitts number 2 as well. Because PFF does go by positional value, they've got Pitts listed at 5 right after Penny Sewell, and obviously Zach Wilson, Justin Fields ranked above them. But again, that's positional value. Johnny D says, Josh O'Connor and Jacob, give us 4 locks in this year's draft.
All right, Josh, you want to do your 4 and then I'll give my 4?
Put me on the spot too. Trevor Lawrence. No, that's the easy one. Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. We'll lock those in. 4 locks this year. Let's say the Chargers and Raiders both take an offensive lineman with their first picks. 1 lock.
All right.
Miami takes 2 offensive weapons within their first 50 picks. Whether that's tight end, wide receiver, running back, any combination, they take 2 of them. Let's see. There will be more than 5 trades in the first round.
Oh, that's listen.
There'll be more than 5 trades in the first round. And this isn't a lock, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say Gregory Rousseau falls out of the first round completely.
Okay.
Would have been the number 1 pass rusher last year if the draft were last year. If he didn't opt out, he was talking about the number 1 pass rusher drops out of the first round.
Yeah, I'll give my 4 locks. My 4 locks, I'll go Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, going 1 and 2.
That doesn't count.
Does it? Okay, fine. I'll say I'll give a lock that the Atlanta Falcons trade pick number 4. I'll say that there are at least 2 offensive tackles taken in the top 10. And I would love to give a number, but like there's gonna I can't give there's gonna be a lot of receivers taken. I'll say that. I think that other than the top 3 receivers, I think that at least 3 more go on top of them. I think that besides Waddle, Chase, and Smith.
You think 6 go in the first?
I think it's certainly a possibility. I'll say 5. I'll go 5 in the first because I think 6 is a lot depending on whatever. But I mean, between Rashad Bateman, between Terrace Marshall, Elijah Moore, there's certainly a ton of talent, a ton of first round talent that could be spread apart in this first round. A lot of guys. I mean, Kadarius Toney. These guys aren't gonna last a while. And yeah, I think sure. I'll leave it at that.
No, that's 3. You got 1 more.
I was gonna say I can't really count. I'll say this. I think that Justin Fields. I don't think any of the top 5 quarterbacks make it out of the top 10.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. Okay. DC the Dumb, my man on Twitter says Marvin Wilson, Josh Kaindoa. He's a big FSU fan. Marvin Wilson, you must have been happy with their ranking of 62. Josh Kaindoa, let's see where they have him. They have him at 144. So I think that's a 4th round, 4th or 5th round, one of those 2. So, hey, J-Rob and another guy that I think they have in the 6th round. I love J-Rob. I think this is going to be good. LOL shouting out all of his FSU guys. I can seriously see Quinn Mariners being a Buck pick. I love it. I think he'd be a perfect Buccaneer pick. It just fits on what they like to do. Position versatility, guard, center, smallest town school. A lot of success drafting those guys in the 2nd and 3rd round. Look at Alex Kappa. Look at Ali Marpet. I think it's definitely the way to go. Slater is a beast. He is a beast. And if you can get Avery Williams and he's just half the player, I'd be excited about that. Mac Jones to the Niners. Lock it in.
Woohoo.
But John doesn't agree. He thinks Johnny Dean thinks that it's going to be Trey Lance. So
when does Johnny Dean ever agree? That's
Johnny Dean never agrees. The pop-up day. When I was doing the mock was driving him nuts. LVD, of course. Peyton Turner sounds interesting. Peyton Turner is interesting, and we'll ask Ben Linsey about that here in a couple minutes. In a couple seconds when we get to him. My wife says she's excited to see Jacob the Prodigy. Johnny Dean steadfast on the Niners taking Trey. And we'll ask Ben about that because I think that's the most interesting thing in the draft right now is who the San Francisco 49ers. I don't want to beat a dead horse into it and get too into it, but I definitely want to hear his take on it as well. GM cannot stake his career on a quarterback with multiple back surgeries so high, period. Light never saw a DB he didn't like. He does. He loves taking DBs, and I'll give it to him. He's assembled quite a vast variety of them, and undrafted free agent that they brought in last year, Javon Hagan, I think is going to be a player too. Let's go. Johnny Dean says Minus would be my first pick simply because there's no one behind Jensen. That's a good point. There's really nobody. They brought in AQ Shipley. Yeah, ended up getting injured, and his career was ended. But I would trade back to get him. I agree. I don't think he's a first-round guy. I think he's mid-second round guy. He goes off the board. Johnny Dean, Jets fans will boo their pick. Eagles fans will boo their pick. Kuiper's hair will not move, and the Raiders will do something stupid. That's Bucs Report's 4 locks right there, and those sound pretty good. Those are pretty good locks for the draft. Kuiper's hair will
Josh,
not
can I ask
move.
you something quickly? Can I ask you something real quick? As just for the Bucs, just because I was thinking about it, it's in my head right now. So, you say that the Niners should absolutely move off of Jimmy G next season, correct? Right?
I think they will. I think by moving off of him, it opens up $23 million or 22 point whatever million in cap space. Allows them to get more players as well after the draft, post June 1 cuts and everything like that. And that's why I think Mac Jones is going to be the guy because he's a day one starter for them.
And so I'll relate this back to the Bucs here because. So if Jimmy Garoppolo, I by no means would say is a great quarterback. I don't even think he's I don't think he's a viable guy that could lead a team for the future. And he was developed by Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and all them. Now, when people are saying the Bucs should draft a quarterback as the heir to whoever, heir to Tom Brady should be the next starter coming in, I just cannot see. Would you want Jimmy Garoppolo to take over your team next year? Like not actually Jimmy Garoppolo, but a guy who's developed by Tom Brady, has very similar skills to Jimmy Garoppolo. I can't see why you would then want to bring in a middle of the round guy to stake on your future of the team, to put the future of the team at stake there, right? As the heir. Because I mean, I understand a lot of these guys are talented, but if Brady, let's say, has 2 more years, I think the Bucs have a better chance of getting another or bringing in another guy because we know this quarterback carousel is always changing. This team's ready to win.
Rodgers or a veteran or something like that.
I don't think they have time for another guy.
I get that, but I'm also of the school of thought that you should always be developing quarterbacks. And the only quarterback that they've been developing is Ryan Griffin, who's thrown 4 career passes. If you look at what the Patriots did with Tom Brady on the roster, Matt Castle with the 7th-round pick, he got lucky and got thrown into action with a great team, but that ended up turning into a 2nd-round pick. Jimmy G ended up turning into a 2nd-round pick. You look at Jacoby Brissett, ended up turning into Philip Dorsett, which was an integral part of them on their Super Bowl run. And then Jared Stidham is still in the roster, and the jury's out on him. I thought that he would have been the guy to start the season. They brought in Cam Newton, and we'll see. But I still think they should definitely be bringing in at least a quarterback somewhere in this draft to definitely develop as it goes by because even if he's just a high-quality backup, it's still good to have veteran quarterbacks and drafting quarterbacks to have to develop. But with that being said, we'll get to the rest of your comments after this. We've got our guest in the building. He's an analyst for PFF. We've had one of his coworkers on with Austin Gayle in here dropping knowledge. He's going to drop some more hot knowledge on us less than 2 days before the draft. Let's welcome in Ben Linsey from PFF. Ben, how are we doing today?
Doing good, guys. It's a tough act to follow up Austin, but I'll do my best.
Hey, it's all right, man. He dropped some good stuff. We definitely have some good, some good questions for you from some of the guys in the comments, and we have our own questions too. But let's first start where everyone's starting, where the draft truly starts this year at number 3. What are your thoughts? Who's the guy? Did that press conference sway you anyway? Who do you think they should, and who do you think they will take? You're on the clock.
Yeah, the guy I think they should take is the guy that they're not going to take. I think they should take Justin Fields, and it sounds like he's not even in that conversation. It seems like it's down between Trey Lance and Mac Jones based on what everyone's saying. And it's hard to tell either way. It sounds like Kyle Shanahan wants Mac Jones. The front office is pushing for Trey Lance a little bit. I just think if you're trading up from 12 to 3, giving up multiple first rounders, you want to find a guy who has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback. And I don't think that's what Mac Jones is. I think Mac Jones can come in and run an offense, which maybe that's what they want. They already have a team in place. They just want a guy to come in and do what Kyle Shanahan wants him to do. But I just have a feeling that is going to end up being Trey Lance because of the extra things he can give you, the athleticism, the arm. By all accounts, he's one of the most intelligent quarterbacks in this class. He did a lot of sort of pro stuff in that North Dakota State offense, even though it was against FCS competition. So I think if I had to guess right now, I would say Lance, but it could really be him or Jones. It's hard to say.
Now, if they do go ahead and draft the Trey Lance, do you think they keep Jimmy Garoppolo, or do you think they have enough comfortability with a former top 10 pick on their roster in Josh Rosen to be that segue guy to Trey Lance? What are your thoughts? Because when I heard the press conference, it just shouted to me that they're looking for a guy, a starter is what they said. We wanted to get a starter. We realized we needed a starter. Well, you have Jimmy G, who is a starter. And then they were very non-committal when asked about whether Jimmy G would still be on the roster throughout the weekend. That to me screams that they're looking to upgrade from Jimmy G. Now, I don't know if Mac Jones is a necessary upgrade, but I think he is a guy who can come in and start right away from day one. You look at the type of offense he ran, a little bit different, but also he's a similar guy to Matt Ryan and a guy like Kirk Cousins, and I think that's what Kyle Shanahan wants. But if they do go Trey Lance, does Jimmy G stick on the roster? They cut him or try to trade him, open up that extra $22.5 million to spend on other players in free agency? And do they trust Josh Rosen to be that kind of segue bridge quarterback to Trey Lance, who I think needs a lot of time, at least a half a season on the bench?
Hopefully they don't trust Josh Rosen because that would be a dangerous game to play with a team that's as talented as San Francisco is. So I think if they do draft Lance, they'll keep Jimmy G. I know they sounded non-committal in that press conference, which was a big change from how they sounded right after the trade happened. You heard them say Jimmy G is our guy next year. He's a starter. They seem to have scaled that back a little bit for this most recent press conference. But I do think he's going to still be on the roster at the beginning of the year, even with that cap hit. It's tough to see them really getting anything in a trade for him. Maybe Denver, but that kind of seems like a stretch. So I think going into this season with Jimmy G and someone like Trey Lance on the roster is probably their best bet because Jimmy G didn't play well last year, but he was playing hurt for most of last year. Just in 2019, they had success with him in there. He's not going to be the highest ceiling guy, but I think he can do a lot of the things Kyle Shanahan wants his quarterback to do still. So if they keep him there and bring on Trey Lance, I think that's probably their best option if they're not drafting Justin Fields.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I can't get off the Mac Jones pick. I think Trey Lance is the guy over Justin Fields. I don't know why. Justin Fields it seems like the odd man out here. I think he's the best out of the three that are left on the board, but it's going to be interesting to see how the whole draft falls out. But enough about the San Francisco 49ers. Let's talk about the Bucs because that's what we're here for. And also, shout out to the Hartford Whalers hat. Love that. Are you a New England guy? Connecticut?
No, I just sort of collect like minor league baseball teams, extinct hockey teams. Okay. just sort of collect them.
Well, I love it though. But let's talk about this Bucs team. 32. It's very difficult to predict what this team could do. They brought back all of their starters. They really have no big holes on this team. Sure, they could use depth at fourth linebacker, fifth cornerback, fourth safety, third, fourth edge rusher, interior offensive line, backup center guard, backup quarterback perhaps. Three of their running backs are on one-year deals. Two of their tight ends are on one-year deals. Where do you see them going with this 32nd pick and kind of throughout the draft? Are they drafting luxury? Could they go outside that realm and say, hey, let's take a running back? Or do you see them drafting more for positional value needs like an edge rusher, like a backup offensive lineman, like maybe a cornerback with Carlton Davis up, and then the following year, Jamel Dean and also SMB up? Where do you see them going with this 32nd pick? And have you had as much trouble trying to mock to this team as the rest of us here in Tampa have?
Yeah, it's hard to mock to a team that doesn't really have any needs. And I think just top to bottom, the Bucs probably have the best roster in the NFL. They're bringing back essentially the same roster they just won a Super Bowl with. So I think they'll be looking to add at valuable positions, just add depth and sort of prepare for the future. I think front seven is an area that makes a lot of sense when you look at JPP and Sue sort of getting up there in age, even Levante David, even though he just signed that contract. In the secondary, like you said, they're going to have to decide whether they're re-signing Carlton Davis, whether they're re-signing these different guys. So they can really go either way, and it just depends on how the board falls to them. I think they're in a sweet spot there at the back end of the first round for edge rusher. If that's the way they want to go, there's sort of a group of talented guys who I think is going to come off the board there. So that's probably where I would lean at 32. But throughout the draft, they're really just adding where they think is going to set them up for the best success in the future, because they don't have to plug immediate holes at starter.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions in the comments, please feel free to shoot them out now. We'll get Ben to answer them in a little bit after we get through some of ours. Just a quick follow-up on there. There's been a lot of talk that, okay, Kwity Paye is probably the top edge rusher, right? Right around there is also Azeez Ojulari. Jalen Phillips is climbing up boards. There's a lot of concerns about his injury history, but without those, he looks to be, as a Caleb Farley, one of the best pass rushers, if not the best pass rusher in the draft. We've seen the fall from Greg Russo. Jason Oweah has been a common name too that could go high, but the lack of production last year, 0 sacks, kind of is like, oh, he's an edge rusher with 0 sacks. But after that, and even with some of those guys from like 20 to 50 range, do you see a big difference between some of those guys with a Greg Russo, with a Joe Tryon, with a Peyton Turner? Do you think it's a possibility that they can move back, still be in a position to get one of these guys, and they'll still be an impact player for them? Because as we remember, some of these guys like Kwity Paye, he's probably going to be a starter day one. Jalen Phillips, possibly the same. Oweah, and as well as Azeez Ojulari, they don't need that. They can take that chance on a guy who is a little bit raw and can take time to develop and just be a rotational guy his first year and then replace JPP. Does it make sense for them to move back and target one of these lesser edge rushers in the top 4 or 5 and gain value, whether that's next year pick or picks in later this year, or improve their draft pick by swaps?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a viable strategy. And it's sort of the interesting thing with this edge class is that there isn't really a consensus. Guys like Kwity Paye and Jalen Phillips is being talked about as a potential top 10 pick if he didn't have the concussion history. Those guys are generally higher on boards. But there's no Nick Bosa, there's no Myles Garrett, there's no Chase Young. So I think that there's a big group of guys at that sort of back end of the first round, sometime in the second round, where there's not a ton of separation. It's a lot of guys who have physical traits, might not be fully polished, or sort of guys on the opposite end who are really strong technically, not high-end athletes. So I think Tampa Bay moving back from 32 to some point in the second, they're not going to miss out on that much value. I would say guys who could contribute right away, like Azeez Ojulari, potentially. I think he's one of the more pro-ready guys. It might make sense to stay at 32, but even then, he's not going to be in a starting role because he's going to be rotating in behind JPP and Barrett. So I think they could drop down to take one of those edge guys.
Now, Johnny Dean says the best value in this draft is from second to the 4th rounds. Do you agree with that assessment? And looking at this draft, I see maybe 12, maybe 15 players who really have true first-round grades on them that are really guys that you get excited about taking in the first round. And then the rest of them, while they're good players and while, their names are being attached to first-round picks, so everyone's like, oh, this guy's a first-round pick. We've seen a lot of people fall out of the first rounds, and a lot of people climb into the first round. Do you share that same opinion where there's like there's like 15, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, and then the rest of these guys are kind of second round calibers in what is really a not a weak class, but a not high end draft class where you have some of these top guys, and the second to 4th rounds are those the sweet spots?
Yeah, I think for a lot of positions it is. At tackle, you have guys like Sewell and Slater up top, but then there's sort of this big group. Same thing with edge, like we just talked about. Interior defender, there's no real consensus on who the top guy is. I think Barmore, if he falls to 32, would be a solid pick for them. But there's a lot of guys in that second to 4th round range who you could target. Interior offensive line, sort of the same thing. So, yeah, I'm there with you. I think that's a good place to find value in this draft.
Yeah, let me bring it back just like a little bit, just like 28 more picks back to the Atlanta Falcons. So I've been saying, that the Falcons should probably trade this pick. I don't think if they're not taking Kyle Pitts, they could trade back however many. They could get a lot of value for a team. And if the Niners do take Mac Jones, that means Justin Fields both on the board because, Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are obviously the top 2 picks. Do you think that the Falcons actually trade out of this pick, or do you think that their asking price is going to be too high and no team is going to meet that and end up just taking a guy like a Kyle Pitts or a Patrick Surtain? Or do you think that they actually take one of those quarterbacks still on the board?
I've been sort of banging the Falcons trade back drum as well. I think that makes the most sense for them. They have needs at all three levels of their defense: defensive line, linebackers, secondary, and it doesn't really make sense to take anyone there at 4. It just depends on if anyone's going to be willing to move up. I think you're looking at the Broncos, you're looking at the Patriots. Are the Broncos going to call their bluff at 4? Is anyone going to actually be willing to move up to 4 when you see teams at like Miami at 6, like Detroit at 7, Carolina at 8 as potential trade teams as well? So it obviously takes someone to want to trade up for that asking price, which is probably going to be multiple firsts, in addition to some mid-round picks. But I think that's their best option. If not, it might be tough to pass on Trey Lance. If he falls, that seems like he's been connected there. But I think Kyle Pitts is probably the safe pick if they're staying put at 4.
Over Justin Fields, huh? Because I think it's a waste of a pick for them because they're locked in at Matt Ryan for 2 years no matter what. I don't think they should go quarterback. I think the best bet is that they can find someone to get that extra first-round pick and then use that to move up and manipulate the board to get up to get a quarterback next year. But I would think Justin Fields. I mean, just the ability, from the monetary standpoint alone, you're going to sell a bunch of jerseys. The Georgia kid who went to Georgia, had to transfer, but and then he comes back home to Georgia to play for the Falcons. I think just the PR and the marketing standpoint from there is a lot. You think that they take Trey Lance over him?
I don't think they should. I think Justin Fields should be in the conversation for the Jets at number 2. Yeah, I'm sort of right there with you, but just based on how all the rumors, what these sort of insider guys are saying, it doesn't seem like these teams in the top 5 are all that high on Justin Fields for whatever reason. Who knows what that is? There's been some reports that Georgia's sort of putting out some bad info on him after he transferred away from there. I don't know if that's the case or not or what it is, but I just think the Falcons, the 49ers, these teams that could potentially go quarterback in the top 5 aren't going to go Justin Fields.
I want to ask you a little bit more specifically about some of these prospects that I've kind of really grown to like throughout the last couple weeks. A guy like Peyton Turner, a guy like Quinn Miners, a guy like Derek Barnes. Can you kind of talk to me about those prospects, what you see in them, and where they could potentially go in this draft?
Yeah, I like those 3 guys, especially the first 2. Peyton Turner, I think, is someone who could end up going higher than people think. He has the size, the length, the powerful guy. Really picked up his production this last year at Houston. I think you can move him outside, inside a little bit, which is big for NFL teams. So I think he would be a good fit in Tampa Bay. And Quinn Miners, too. Didn't really have that much pub at all until he went to the Senior Bowl. Really stepped up against higher level competition there. The connection to Tampa Bay, obviously, with Ali Marpet, is sort of being drawn from small school to dominating at the Senior Bowl to going higher than people originally thought. I think he's a guy who can win with power. He's athletic. He showed that at his pro day as well. And then Barnes, that blitz sort of heavy system with Todd Bowles, I think he's a good fit there. It's one of his bigger strengths coming out of Purdue. Can come downhill, take on blocks from running backs. So I like all those fits for the Tampa Bay.
2 guys who I've seen heavily mocked to the Buccaneers the past week has been a guy like Joe Tryon out of Washington and Landon Dickerson out of Alabama, center guard. Obviously, Dickerson, he's got serious injury concerns stemming all the way back from FSU. But with a guy like Alex Kappa and Ryan Jensen, both in contract years, a guy who's got the flexibility to play guard or center. Is 32 too high for him? Because I feel like it is. I feel like 32 is too high, and I know some people have him going as high as to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know you guys have him ranked right around the 45th spot, but is 32 too high for him? And same thing with Joe Tryon. You guys have him at 82 on your big board. Talk to me about those guys real quick, and then I'll bounce it back over to Jacob because I know he's got a plethora of questions to ask you. But these are 2 guys I'm seeing heavily mocked to them. Elijah Moore for that point too. So just give me a little rundown on those 3 guys.
Yeah, I think 32 probably is a little bit too early for both Dickerson and Tryon for me. Dickerson, I think just from a skill point stand wise, you can make the argument that he deserves to be at 32, but the injuries are a legitimate concern with that history he has at Alabama. You like the positional versatility. He basically played everywhere on that offensive line over the course of his career. He's just a grown man in there. It's easy. It's easy to fall in love with his style of play. He's going to be a fan favorite wherever he goes, as long as he can stay healthy. But I think just 32, it's a little bit too high with some of those injury concerns. And then Tryon, he looks like an edge defender. He has the build, sort of that length, the size, explosiveness. He just never really put it all the way together from a production standpoint at Washington. I think he never graded above 70 for us in a season, and then he opted out of the 2020 season. So we didn't really get to see whether or not he took that next step. By all accounts, he sort of really worked on his body in that year off. I know Levi Onwuzurike came on to Austin and Mike's podcast and sort of raved about the work he's put in and how he looks now. But we just haven't seen it on a football field. So I would feel a lot more confident with some of the other edge options at 32 than I would with him. And Elijah Moore is interesting. I think he's someone who should go in the first round. He was really super productive at Ole Miss this past season. A quick guy from the slot, also has straight line speed. If they don't bring back AB, I don't really know whether or not they're planning to, what that situation is, but he could make sense as sort of a luxury pick to add on there with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, even though they have some younger guys. But I do like him in the first round. So I think out of those three, he would be the best value.
Yeah, let me bring it back to the pick number 5, because we talked about the Falcons at 4. The pick number 5, I've seen early, it was all Penei Sewell, Bengals go Penei Sewell, everything, whatever. Now we're hearing Jamar Chase, reconnect that LSU connection between Joe Burrow and Chase, obviously. Personally, what would you do if you were the Bengals? Would you go Sewell or would you go Chase? And then what do you think they actually do at pick number 5 there?
I think they're actually going to go Chase. It seems like the buzz is sort of heading that way. It's what people are saying. You hear guys at LSU think that's going to be the pick. And I would go Chase myself personally. I know it's a big debate. I don't feel as strongly about it as some other people feel. Some people are ready to die on the hill of Sewell or Chase. I think either one would be a good pick. But when you look at their offensive line, how it's constructed right now, their need is really on the interior. And I know that if you add Sewell, you can kick Jonah Williams into guard, and that strengthens the interior. But I also think they need a legitimate number one guy at wide receiver who can win deep. They had virtually no deep passing attack at all last year. They were one of the worst teams in the NFL there. Burrow had a lot of success with Chase deep at LSU in 2019. They have that chemistry. And if you bring him on, he's going to be an every down starter along with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. They run a lot of 11 personnel, 3 wide receiver sets. And bringing in Chase as the number one only elevates what guys like Boyd and Higgins are going to give you. And I think you can find offensive line in the second round, sort of like we talked about. Yeah,
a guy like Wyatt Davis could definitely be in there for the interior, or even Landon Dickerson if they want to kick him the guard. I want to ask you about your draft and covering this. You've kind of, as everyone has, they've developed crushes, right? I know you have a couple guys that you're like, I don't know who your team is, but you're like, man, I hope they draft us. So who's been some of your draft crushes? Some of the early guys, but also some of these later guys who could end up sleepers. Mine is my biggest draft crush before any of these early edge rushes or anything like that has been Avery Williams. I love the kid out of Boise. I think not only can he be a successful, nickel cornerback, dime cornerback, if you need to bring him in and when you're bringing multiple cornerbacks on the interior, but also as a special teams guy. I mean, 9 touchdowns, 5 blocks, a forced fumble. The guy was a machine just on special teams, at not only as a returner, but also as a gunner and also just as a penetrator. The guy is just an absolute animal, and I have fallen deeply in love with this guy, and I hope the Buccaneers or the Patriots get him for that matter. Who's been your guy, and who are some of the later round guys that you're like, man, let's get this guy?
Yeah, well, I grew up a Steelers fan, so I'm just hoping it's not Najee Harris, 24.
I agree.
Even though I like the guy, running back wasn't the problem with their offense. But as far as sort of my guys in this draft class, I like Osa Odighizuwa out of UCLA at interior defender. I think it's sort of a weird interior defender class. A lot of people are calling it super weak. I think it is weak. But he's one of the guys who I have confidence in. I watched his Senior Bowl reps, and man, he just dominated there in both the practice one-on-ones and the game itself. He was productive at UCLA. He's sort of undersized, but he's got long arms, sort of stout base. He can hold up against the run well. Hasn't been improving as a pass rusher, so he's a guy who I would take a chance on in the middle rounds. Amir Smith-Marset out of Iowa, a wide receiver, is one of my favorite sort of deep threats who might go day 4, probably will, or not day 4, day 3, probably will go day 3. And he just didn't have any help in that Iowa offense. A lot of underthrown balls. I think he's also someone who can impact the return game. He was a good returner, both punt and kick returns at Iowa. So sort of adding him as a speed threat, I like. In the first round, I'm a big Tevin Jenkins fan. I think bringing him,
player.
Yeah, he is mean. He's sort of like Landon Dickerson. He's just a grown man who's going to have his way, move the line of scrimmage in the run game. Performed well in pass protection there too. So I would be confident taking him anywhere as early as the middle portions of the first round. But those are a few of sort of my guys in this draft class.
I got a hypothetical, and then I'll pass it to Jacob. So let's say that the Steelers, and I've kind of thrown the scenario out. The Steelers, they obviously need an edge rusher after losing Bud Dupree. The offensive line is well documented, losing Marquise Pouncey, Villanueva, and I think they also have some guards that could probably be used to be, given some competition as well. Let's say you address the edge rusher. Let's say you address cornerback's another position. Let's say you address edge rusher, cornerback, and offensive line within the first 3 rounds. Anyway, the Steelers call up the Buccaneers and say, hey, you guys have a rusher who almost ran for 1,000 yards, have a loaded backfield. It's going to be hard for him to possibly see snaps with a guy like Leonard Fournette, who is playoff Lenny, if he continues to be playoff Lombardi Lenny. And we brought in Giovanni Bernard, who's going to be probably the third down back. Anyway, they pick up the phone and say, hey, what do you guys want for one Ronald Jones?
Yeah, I think it could be a possibility. They have that need at running back. I know they were interested in Fournette last year. A lot of Steelers fans wanted them to sign him when he was available. But Ronald Jones sort of fits that physical running style that they seem to want. It might not be quite the receiver that they're looking for. I think that's part of why they're interested in Najee Harris. He's just so smooth as a receiver for a bigger back. It sort of draws the flashbacks to Le'Veon Bell in their minds. I think so. That might be a barrier to trading for Ronald Jones. But it seems like they're hell bent on finding a running back this offseason and doing it early in the draft or with some trade capital.
Yeah, and offensive line is definitely where they need to address, because that offensive line for so long was set up for what Le'Veon Bell likes to do, which is, sit back, find the hole, and run. And I think they're going to need to find a little bit more meaner, nastier, get back to that Pittsburgh Steelers type of running game that they used to have. Jacob, what's going on, my man? Talk to him.
Yeah. I mean, speaking about that offensive line, here's a prospect that I really heard a lot about and I really liked early on, and then I don't know why he just I literally, it's not even like I heard he's dropping on people's boards. I just haven't heard anything about him, and that's Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan. I heard a lot of people liked him. He was a big name. I saw people even throwing him in the first round in mocks. What are your opinions on Jalen Mayfield, and why is he not talked about anymore?
Yeah, I think Mayfield in the first round was always a little bit aggressive. I think the thing that was sort of pushing him in there was he was viewed as this athletic guy, a guy with high upside. And then he didn't really test all that well in his pro day, which is what has dropped him down a little bit. But I think there's just better options in that first round for tackles. If you're looking guys like, even at the back end, Sam Cosmi, Alex Leatherwood, Dylan Radins, some of these guys that I would draft before I would draft Mayfield. There was also questions as to whether he would be a tackle in the NFL or whether he would have to move inside the guard. So I think the first round talk early was a little bit aggressive, and it's just sort of realigning itself these last few weeks.
Cool. Also, I have one more question for you. I'm a Jets fan. I'm a huge Jets fan. I know I'm Bucs Report, but it's rough, right? I'm looking forward to this draft. We're in a rebuild with new coach, all that fun stuff. Can you? I asked about it. Could you reassure me that Austin did. Can you reassure me that as a Jets fan, it's all going to be okay after this year's draft? Because I'm very, very worried that we're not going to make the right picks. And I know last year we had a really good draft. Joe Douglas had a great draft. Mekhi Becton was great. Denzel Mims, I think, with more targets is going to be great. We have 3 picks in the top 35 this year. Can you reassure me that one, Zach Wilson is hopefully all he's hyped up to be? And then at 23 and 34, we're going to have some pretty solid options, whether that's on the interior offensive line or at corner or at wide receiver, whatever they decide to address.
Yeah, I will reassure you because I believe it. I think Zach Wilson, some people are a little bit lower on him, but I think he's deserving of at least being in that conversation with Justin Fields for the number 2 overall pick. I know the level of competition at BYU can be picked on. He only has one elite year. But I also think the one-year wonder stuff with him is a little bit unfair. He came in and played well as a true freshman in 2018 with BYU, was hurt a little bit in 2019, but still didn't play all that bad. So he's not a one-year wonder. And the arm talent, the off-platform stuff, the sort of creativity outside the pocket, all that stuff is special. I like the direction they're heading with the coaching staff. I think Robert Saleh and some of the guys he's brought on is the right direction. And their needs at 23 and then at the top of the second round, wide receiver, interior offensive line, cornerback. That's a good spot to find them. I think 23, ideally, Greg Newsome, Caleb Farley, one of those guys is there, assuming Farley's medicals check out. Who knows what that situation is going to be like. And then offensive line at 35 or wherever they decide to go, edge rusher. They're in a good spot with those 3 picks.
Now, I could sit here and talk draft with you all night, but I've kept you on long enough. I'm gonna end it with this. You're on the clock. Buccaneers 32. You've got a few calls for trade up. Who are you taking at 32 if you're the Buccaneers?
It's a tough one. I think depending on who's there, I think I'm going to go edge rusher. I just think that's sort of where the value is going to be. Plan ahead for JPP eventually leaving. Azeez Ojulari would probably be my first pick, but there's a chance that he's gone at that point. And I like Jason Owe, especially if you're going to use him in a rotational role out to start. He only started playing football in 2016. So from an athletic tool standpoint, it's all there. And I know 0 sacks in 2020. It always gets back to that, keeps getting harped on. He still had an 80 PFF pass rushing grade. It's not like he wasn't getting any sort of pressure at all. He just wasn't finishing. So if you're going to bring him on and sort of develop him slowly behind those guys, I wouldn't hate that at all for Tampa Bay.
So edge rusher is the pick. It's funny. Austin said offensive line should be the pick there. He was looking at some of these tackles that maybe could kick in a guard and replace Alex Kappa next year and then maybe take over for a guy like Donovan Smith. It's funny to see, you guys have different opinions, but I want to thank you for your time. I know I kept you a little bit longer, but hey, it's draft week and I could talk. I literally could do a 5-hour show, and I will on Thursday and Friday. And Saturday will be a 7-hour show, right? It usually ends around 7. So it's almost here. We're literally less than 2 days away. I'm so excited.
It's a great time of year, man. Anytime you get to talk some draft, it's a good time.
Absolutely. Ben, I want to thank you so much. Analyst at PFF. Why don't you go ahead and give them a little bit of information, what you're working on, what you guys have maybe coming out the rest of this week before the draft, and also where they can find you at to follow all your stuff.
Yeah, we've got a lot of draft coverage coming over at pff.com this week. Live draft show Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Live draft analysis on the website which I'll be contributing to. So it's a good place to get caught up. Draft 30 is the promo code. 30% off any subscription all week. You can find my stuff individually at PFF_Linsey on Twitter.
Oh, we got one question real quick before I get you out of here. Christopher Cole says, what's everyone's opinion on 5'7" wide receiver out of Purdue? I believe his name is Rondale Moore. Give a quick little rundown on him, and then we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, I love Rondale Moore. It's hard not to. The guy's just a dynamite athlete, small, but he's short, but he's not small. He's sort of built like a rock. He can break tackles. I liked him to Tampa Bay originally. I think in one of my earlier mocks, I gave him to Tampa Bay at 32 with the idea that he could sort of take some snaps in the backfield and be the receiving outlet there. Gio Bernard bringing him on, it sort of takes away from that a little bit, but I still wouldn't hate Rondo more there at 32.
Thank you so much, Ben, for your time. I really appreciate it. Maybe we'll get you back next week on the Audible to kind of grade this draft. But thank you for your time. Great knowledge as always. Follow Ben on Twitter at PFF_Linsey, right?
Correct.
Follow him there. Check out all of his work. Ben, thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, man.
Guys.
There it is.
I don't know what more we can give you. We gave you two great draft analysts who have done their homework. Jacob, the knowledge overload that I have here, I don't know about you, consuming my own stuff, but now having more guys on here. What are you thinking?
Man, I'm gonna be sitting there on Thursday night, and I'm just gonna have I'm gonna remember back to something Austin or Ben said about one of these prospects that kind of snuck their way into the first round. And we're gonna be like, oh, well, he said he's gonna be really, really solid, so he's gonna be that. Watch out.
Are you reassured? That's the question.
Am I reassured? Man, I can never be reassured. I'm always, I think I'm reassured, and then they do something. The Jets do something stupid. So, listen, it's a process. It's a process. You guys dealt with it for quite some time, and now you guys are enjoying the glory days. So,
guys, we're not done yet, though. We're not done. We're already past 10 o'clock, but you know what? It's draft week. Jacob, you ready to go still?
I think. Oh, I'm ready to go.
We're ready to go. Guys, in the comments, we need you now. I'm going to drop the invite code. We need you now because you know what time it is? You know what time it is? Jacob, tell me what time it is.
I think I smell a mock draft.
I think I smell a mock draft too. Let's get this going. Let's start our Buccaneers mock draft to end the show. Let's get it going. Let me just get it up here. Bada bing, bada boom. And we are mocking, baby. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's set it up. I got the speed as kind of fast because we want to get through this, but also if I want to pause it to maybe make a trade up, I mean, we should do this. Care for positional value. We'll keep it right in the middle. Randomness right in the middle. Draft for needs. I think this is a year that teams draft for needs for sure. And public versus PFF. I love you, PFF, but I don't agree with some of your board rankings. So we're going to go with a little bit of a public rank, skew towards a public rank. We won't skew it that much, but we'll skew it a little bit. We've got our Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected, and let's enter the draft, baby. Are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
Because I am ready. Do we want to trade up with Jacksonville before the draft? I think I'm good. Let's start this baby up. Oh, and we already have a bad draft, so let's restart this again. We're not going with Zach Wilson as a number one pick. No. Sorry, my friend. I'm so sorry to do that to you, but it's not happening. Let's set our draft board back up.
A boy can go. I would go honestly all the way public with the PFF versus the PFF board.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. I don't think they're watching anymore. If they are, we apologize. Let's go. Let's start this draft back up, and hopefully the right decision is made at number one. Trevor Lawrence off the board. Here we go. Now it's looking at a little more like what we want it to happen. Let's go. Here we go. Let's
at least a little bit.
Oh, okay. Kyle Pitts. Hold on. Hold the horn. We're not going to restart it, but Kyle Pitts all the way to 20. Whew. That's unlikely to happen, but let's see. We had Zach Wilson, just a little recap. Jalen Waddle at number 4. A couple, what do they have, 3 Bama guys there now? So, hey, as long as most of the guys are off the board before our pick that are supposed to be off the board, I think we let it ride. I don't want to keep restarting this over and over again. Najee went in the first, and we are on the clock. Let's take a little bit of a step back and see what's going on. Christian Barmore, Najee Harris to the Browns. That makes a lot of sense with the 2 running backs they have. But let's take a look. Let's take a look at the guys available for us. We have Greg Newsome the second, Elijah Moore, Jason Oweah, Walker Little, Asante Samuel Jr., Dylan Raduns, Rondell Moore, Elijah Molden, Kadarius Toney, Alex Leatherwood, Jamin Davis, Carlos Basham Jr., Ronnie Perkins. It looks like we have no trade offers. So it looks like we're going to stay put here, guys.
Newsome, man. Come on.
I'm looking at Greg Newsome and Jason Oweah here. Oweah. That's who I'm looking at. 2 of the top players on the board. They have spoken to both of these players. Let me pop back over to StreamYard. What are you guys saying in the comments? We have Johnny Dean coming to the stream. Welcome, Johnny Dean. How are we doing today?
How's it going, bud?
So you're looking at the same board I am. We got Greg Newsome. No offers to trade back. We could try to make our own offer to trade back with somebody, but it looks like we have no interest really. What do you think we go here? Do we go Greg Newsome? Do we take the luxury with Elijah Moore, Jason Owe? What are your thoughts?
I think I'll take Greg Newsome. I
Yeah,
like
Greg.
the guy. I like him out at Northwestern. And secondary needs a little more depth.
Yeah, I agree. I really love the Ross Cockrell move. A lot of people wanted a veteran. I didn't agree with that. Edge rush is good here, but with these rankings of PFF, and I know that we are not totally on PFF's rankings, I think there's a chance we'll get a good edge rusher later in the draft. Guys in the comments, anybody else want to comment on that? I know we've got about it looks like 12 people watching. So any 12 of you guys have opinions on Greg Newsome, Elijah Moore, or Jason Owe? Let me know
Steven
now.
Glasker.
Let me know now or forever hold your peace. I'll do a mock draft countdown here before we have to turn in the clock. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jacob, hit the chime. With the first pick in our mock draft here, we are selecting Greg Newsome, cornerback out of Northwestern.
Josh, I liked how we both had the idea to hit the button and we didn't even need to communicate about it.
Oh, you had to. All right, so we got some guys going off the board. Joe Tryon goes off the board. Jason Owe goes off the board. Wow, what a jump right there. We have Kyle Trask going to the Patriots at 46. Let's see what the Jets did at 34. They took Kadarius Toney to go along with Zaven Collins and Zach Wilson. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, not a fan, but it's whatever.
All right, so let's continue this draft and let's see what's else is going on here. Looks like some tackles off the board, some more cornerbacks. Whoa, hold the phone. This draft just got thrown out the window with Jamie Newman going in the second round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Out of control here, but you know what? This is all for fun. Let's keep it rolling to see who we get at 64. See if my guy Peyton Turner falls off the board there. But hey,
oh, there he is. Oh my God,
Elijah Moore still on the board. Jamin Davis on the board. Landon Dickerson on the board. Let's keep scrolling down. Quinn Miners, Javonte Williams on the board still. A lot of good guys. It looks like the edge rushers are pretty much
on the board too.
Who?
Eric Stokes.
Eric Stokes as well. Looks like the best edge rusher we have left, Deo Adeyingbo, Cameron Sample. If you don't know, I have a huge crush on Deo Adeyingbo, so I would not mind him, but I don't think this is the spot to take him. Looks like we have one trade offer, but that's to move all the way down to 129. I'm not with that. Johnny Dean, are you with that?
I don't dig it.
Not while Quinn Miners is on the board now.
So, I mean, we're looking at
Elijah Moore is still there too.
Elijah Moore's the pick.
Elijah Moore's value.
Hold on, I'll throw in Landon Dickerson. I think that's a great pick there too.
Elijah Moore, Landon Dickerson, even Javonte Williams, I think, is a good pick here. Again, Javonte's off the board by this point. Richie Grant's off the board. Landon Dickerson and I think Jamin Davis, Elijah Moore, they're all off the board here. I think Quinn Miners is the most realistic if we want to keep it that way. Who do we take in the first round?
I think Jabril Cox is a possibility.
I mean, do we want to take the best player available? Or do we want to keep it rolling with some realistic here? It's up to you guys.
I think we could get a little bit of both worlds. I think Quinn Miners is a good pick.
Yeah, I think Quinn Miners. Johnny agrees. Let's go Quinn Miners here.
All right, well, there it is.
Oh, my bad. Jumped the gun on that one.
John, you jumped the gun, Joe.
That's what she said.
See, the only thing about PFF when you're doing it is you can't see who you've drafted already, and you can't see what players on the board when you pause it. Because how am I supposed to select who I want to trade up for if I don't know who's available left? Exactly. I do see that there are two edge rushers available still. Looks like Patrick Johnson just went. Let me scroll up. But Deo Adeyingbo is still there. I am a huge fan of Deo Adeyingbo. Tore his Achilles right before the Senior Bowl this past January. I do think that he could be a really good player. Compare him to JPP a little bit with his versatility. What do you guys think about trying to trade up right here for Deo?
Trade up?
I mean, all 8 picks.
I'm never for trading up, but at the value here, you can get a good. See, though, that's the torn Achilles, man. That's probably why he's dropped because I had him I had him a lot higher than this.
It is. The Beast has him around 86 or at 81, and the PFF big board has him at 114.
I think that's about where he falls right now.
But I don't know if he falls in this mock as being the best. Let's resume it a little bit more. If he's there around 85, let's try to see if we can trade up using a 6th. Oh, I paused it 1 second too late, and he goes to 86 to the Jets.
To the Jets.
Wow, you damn Jets.
I know.
So let's just let it roll to our pick. Cam Sample went right there too. Really, the guys that I like that edge right there in the third round, potential fourth round guys. We're looking at guys like Chris Rumph, Jonathan Cooper. I think that's a little high for both of these guys. It looks like Quincy Roche could be a good pick. I know they have him ranked 168. I don't think that's where he actually goes. Let's see on. He is outside of the top 100.
What are they playing in Miami? Are they playing a 4-3 or a 3-4?
It doesn't really matter because we don't really play in any of those sets here. There's so much versatility.
Yeah, but the size matters. I mean, if he's an outside linebacker playing in a 4-3, that wouldn't set well. We'd have to rotate him.
Let me look at his size real quick. Let me open it up. My handy dandy draft Bible, thanks to the one and the only. All right, let's see. Who did I say? Quincy Roche.
Yeah.
Quincy Roche, third, fourth round prospect. He's still only 6 foot 245. 6'2".
Not bad.
6'2", 245, 4'6", 40. 32-inch wingspan.
Is he quick? I'll be honest with you, I haven't studied a lot of him. I haven't studied much of the Miami guys outside of Phillips. Same here. I know we're taking a little bit of time on this guy, but I want to make sure we get it right, guys. This mock is important. This could turn out to be the one. We're turning this card in.
This could turn out to be the one. His overall Roche's average traits will be tough to overcome versus NFL blockers, but he's the type of pass rush prospect who will make it because of his toughness, feel, and effort. He projects as a situational sub-package rusher.
Yeah, so he's a rotational guy.
Yeah, and we don't need a rotational guy. I mean, it looks like we're going to have to get our edge rusher next year. That's just what I'm looking at with the guys available.
It's not the worst thing.
I really don't like their rankings at all.
I like Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon's a solid pick. I like that.
So, what offensive linemen are still on the board? Or wide receiver? Hey, we haven't looked at wide receiver yet. What wide receivers are still on the board?
Deontay Brown, Aaron Banks, Kendrick Green, David Moore. Wide receivers, let's take a look. This is why this stuff. De'Ami Brown, who I think could be a potential first-round guy. I just don't think he's there. Nico Collins, I think, slips and finds his way into the second. Amari Rogers, maybe. What round are we in? Third? Amari Rogers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll throw it. Hey. I'll throw it in. Amari Rogers out of Clemson. I love it. I like that pick a lot.
I like it too.
Trey Sermon goes off the board.
There's a potential that we could still get Quincy Roche here coming up around.
I think that's going off the board.
Let's see. Did he go off? Yes, he did. He went at 99.
Yeah. So, Brown, they got going to the Patriots to do well.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Let's see the Jets. Who did the Jets end up taking? Trevon Grimes to pair with Kadarius Toney, right? Is that who they took?
I don't hate that pick. I don't hate that pick if that's their first receiver taken. I mean, I don't taking two is necessary.
Yeah, they took both Florida receivers.
Are we going to see Trask? I know Trask went to the Patriots.
You turned into Patriots now, man. They used to draft nothing but Florida guys.
Oh God!
I think Hernandez put an end to that, though.
Fair enough.
I love PFF for their analytics and their stats. I have him as Mr. Irrelevant, and they have him going at 126. Jabril Cox in the 4th round. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I hate that I can't see who's available left so I can trade up or not if I want to. So now we're just here. Jamin Davis still on the board. Makes no sense that he's still.
Take him.
I'm not. None of these guys right here are going to be available at this pick. I'm telling you. Jamin Davis, Jamar Johnson, Kelvin Joseph, Kendrick Green. None of these guys are going to be available. We have 2 trade offers, though. So we can kind of see what they want. It looks like Minnesota wants to slide up. What's that? 6 picks. Carolina wants to slide up a lot more. I don't think we need more picks in this draft. So let's see what they want to do.
So we could take.
They give any futures up?
I'm gonna not 23. 2020. No, 2022. They don't have their 3rd round pick. That's what I was gonna go for. I'll try for a 2nd, and I'll offer a 7th this year as well. See if they'll make this deal. Hey, they agreed.
Well, you should ask for more.
We moved back 6 picks. We pick up a 2nd round next year, and we also give up one of our 2 7s. Let's go. I love that move. Who do they take? Oh, Allison Smith. He would have been a good guy to grab for us, too. Off the edge. Let's see what other edge rushers are still here hanging around. Jonathan Cooper, Ohio State. I have him a little bit lower.
Tony.
What?
I like Shaka Tony.
Shaka Tony. Chauncey Golston makes a lot of sense here out of Iowa. Janarius Robinson. I like Janarius Robinson a lot. Didn't have the best tape. Or Patrick Jones is 2nd from Pittsburgh. He's going
if we could
so low.
Oh my God.
He's going so low here.
I don't like Patrick Jones. I don't know how realistic Patrick Jones is a good name.
Khalil Herbert still on the board.
Patrick Jones is serviceable. I don't think he'd beat anybody that we got on the line in the rotation already, but
I think he could beat Anthony Nelson. I think Tommy Tremp. Well, he won't be there though in real life. So
no, he's not.
You really think he could beat Nelson? I don't.
We already took a cornerback. Let's look at interior offensive line prospects. Aaron Banks makes sense here. I think he'd really be here as well. Yeah. I like David Moore a lot as well too. We took Quinn Miners already, who's got that position versatility.
I like any guards from Notre Dame. They're usually pretty good.
Let's see who's here for tackles. I don't think either of these guys. Robert Hainsey, he's a guy. Spencer Brown, Northern Iowa. Deontay Smith. I like both of those guys right here.
I don't like him to play complete tackle. If he can move him inside, I'd go for it.
Of course, we don't have the draft guide information. Let's see who's available. That's at 141.
You said Brendan James, right?
Who?
Brendan James, Nebraska.
Yes, Brendan James out of Nebraska.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to him. It'd still be a battle for rotation job, but look where you're.
Well, that's what we're looking at here in the 4th round is rotational battle guys. Let's see who's here. Also, I mean, I like Spencer Brown or Deontay Smith a little bit more than him, to be honest. But let's see who's here for interior D line too. Milton Williams, Bobby Brown. I do like Bobby Brown a lot from Texas A&M. He fits right around where they're going to be drafting. Let me just pop back to StreamYard. Icewater Olson said Roche is Temple tough. Bulls will love him. Unfortunately, he went off the board a few picks after we took Amari Rodgers. Guys, I think Bobby Brown, interior defensive line, or Spencer Brown and Deontay Smith. I think Deontay Smith could be an absolute beast. He definitely needs time. He's a little raw. Same thing with Spencer Brown. I think both of those guys could be good pickups. And maybe we manipulate the board and move back up and try to grab one of these edge rushers or something. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we got enough guards on the team already. We pretty much only need a center and maybe another tackle as a backup. But
yeah. So that's why I'm looking at defensive interior with a Bobby Brown or an offensive tackle guy. What do you think?
I'd go defense. Interior defense is so weak though, man.
Yeah, Bobby Brown is one of the
good in this class, but compared to other classes, they look like crap, dude.
Exactly. Anyone in the comments, feel free to give us a shout. What do you think? Should we go interior defensive line with a Bobby Brown, or should we take a guy like Deontay Smith or Spencer Brown on the tackle position? What are your thoughts? Give us a little
Come on,
Give
Steven
us-
Glasker. What's your opinion down there, buddy?
Yeah, give us a little rundown. You don't even need to know who the prospects are. Tackle or defensive line? What are your thoughts?
I'm going. I like the defensive lineman. I do.
I'm not impressed by the defensive line at all, man. I
I'm
mean,
not, but Bobby Brown is one of the guys I had them mock to him. I do like Bobby Brown. Oh, safety. We can take a look at safety. I mean, the first one is we're not going to even look at Jamar Johnson. He's not going to be there. DeMar Hamlin. It's more of a later round draft pick, though. If I'm not mistaken, JT. I think you had
Tyler
him.
Gillespie wasn't too bad.
Who?
Tyler Gillespie.
Gillespie out of Missouri.
Yeah, he's got the tools that he could actually fight for a rotation job in there.
See, I think so does Javon Hagan, though. It's like,
Did they still have Jamin Davis up there, man?
yeah,
Did I just see that?
yeah, you saw Jamin Davis still up there. I'm not touching him though. It's not realistic. Not that any of this will be realistic with him still on the board. I like Spencer Brown and Deontay Smith, or I like Bobby Brown. I don't know. JT, what are you thinking? You're one of our draft guys.
Flip a coin.
Leroy says Bobby Brown. Gotta get him.
Go get him.
Let's get Bobby Brown. Whitney's not gonna like it, but see, this is how these things take forever. They get really tough because you're sitting there. It's like, who do you? Oh, damn it! I did it again. Jacob, play the sound anyways. Bobby Brown, Kelvin Johnson just went. That makes no sense. If Jamin Davis is still on the board by the next time we pick, I'm throwing the whole thing off. And I hate that I can't see what players are available, so I can potentially trade up if I want. What is going on here? Yeah, this makes no sense. Jamin Davis is still on the board, and we picking like 7 picks. Gillespie just went. Brady Christensen just went. Jamin Davis is still on the board.
Oh my
This block
God.
is trash.
If he's there in the 7th, can we take him?
If he's there in the 7th, we definitely can take him. I will.
Where are we
approve
at now?
that.
The 5th?
We're in the 5th round. Let's look back and check on edge rushers. None of these guys are going to contribute right away, but they still got Jonathan Cooper, who I think this is where he goes. I also think Janarius Robinson is another good pick who could go right here. Patrick Jones is there as well.
Patrick Jones is cool. I think Patrick Jones is the pick here. Honestly, like he's a really solid developmental guy.
You like him better than Cooper?
I do like him. I actually do like him better than Cooper.
Wow.
Let's see what PFF has these guys ranked, even though obviously we know we can't trust their rankings right now. Well, you know what? We can't say that. We can't say we don't trust them because who knows? Jonathan Cooper is at 178 of their top 200. Patrick Jones is at 190. So right around there. The story I heard about Patrick Jones, though, kind of sways me to him. He would get out of practice at Pittsburgh and then go straight to the Steelers facility and sneak in there to watch Bud Dupree practice and try to pick up things that he did. I mean, how can you not like that guy? I think he would be a good pick for them here. Jonathan Cooper is – I like him too, but I don't
like
know.
anybody that plays in that division, man. Those are grunts. You got to understand, they play old school grunt football, and you can't go wrong with them, man. The offensive lines are usually solid. The defensive lines are usually solid. It's the only team that compares to that is like Bama with their defensive and offensive lines.
Let's look back to what our good friend Dane Brugler says, because I think he's a little more dialed in. But they've got Jonathan Cooper as a 6th, 7th round pick. They've got Patrick Jones at a 3rd, 4th round pick.
There you go.
Well, I don't think it's that realistic in the 4th, 5th round pick.
I don't either.
Janarius Robinson's here, and he's a 5th, 6th round pick. I really like Janarius Robinson.
Okay.
He was in my first mock overall. He didn't have the production, but he's got the body. He's got the skill set that translates to the next level. I'm going to make the executive decision here, and I'm going to draft Janarius Robinson, edge rusher out of Florida State, and make DC the Don really happy here. So here we go, moving right along. We're going to come to our 6th round pick here soon. It's just Aaron Banks still there, Gowan's still there, Tommy Tremble just went off the board. And this is just not making. That's why I named you Joe Dirt instead of Nunamaker. Okay. We are back on the clock. Jamin Davis is still there in the 6th. If he's there in the 7th, we're taking him for sure.
Let's go running back with this one, man.
Let's check out running back. Who's available? Khalil Herbert, that doesn't make sense. He probably won't be here. Puka Williams, I can see him. Ooh, Elijah Mitchell, the Raging Cajun himself. I could definitely get behind that pick. Or Ramondre Stevenson. And Keen Nwangwu. We heard Justin Mello talk about him, about his special teams value. Jamar Jefferson, another guy who could definitely be there. What do you, Larry Roundtree? What are you guys thinking here?
I like
what else could we use?
I like running back. I think
yeah, let's look at running back. Let's stick with running back. I mean, Khalil Herbert will go past.
I think Puka Williams is definitely a good pick. I like Elijah Mitchell.
I like Elijah Mitchell.
One of those two. Let's flip a coin on it. Is nobody going to?
We're picking Puka Williams. I like Puka Williams. So
I like his name. Let's go with the name.
Yeah, Johnny, I agree with you.
But I like the Raging Cajun. But I do. I like the Raging Cajun here. I think Elijah Mitchell will be perfect for this offense. What do you guys think? Is it time for Avery Williams yet? You know what? Let's check in our boy Avery Williams real quick before we make this decision at running back. See if he's here. Because if he is here.
This is your mock draft, so if he's there, we're taking him. Avery Williams. No, he's not. That's tough. He probably went in the first round based on how this thing's.
All right. Let's see. Williams.
Puka Williams. There he is.
Marlon. No, Avery Williams is off the board. Who took him? Must have been recently. Let's roll up real quick. I don't see him at all. Do they even have him listed on here? Wow, the disrespect for Avery Williams is real. It didn't go to the Patriots in round 5. Let's go the running back, guys. Let's go the running back. Let's go Elijah Mitchell, the Raging Cajun himself. Let's get after him. I like him. I think he's going to be a good player. He's also spoke with the Buccaneers multiple times. Let's get this Raging Cajun guy. Steal him right out of the Saints' land.
I was much wanting to be cheering for Puka. Now I got to try to fit chant around Elijah.
All right, we're coming up to our last picks. Remember, we traded 251 for a second-round pick next year.
There's no way Jamin Davis is going to be this irrelevant.
Come on, Jamin Davis.
Jamin Davis went.
Where'd he go?
Jamin Davis went. Let's see where he went. Who drafted this man in the 6th round?
They were listening to the show.
Wait, where did he go? 217.
Elijah Mitchell.
Did he go before that last pick and we just didn't look at it?
He left. He just walked out of the draft room at some point.
Yeah. Oh, 252. We could have had him at 251 if we stayed there.
No!
Jamin Davis. Wow.
Oh.
The guy climbed up to a first-round pick and then dropped all the way.
Value. That's only okay value for Jamin Davis.
Look at these guys. Jamar Johnson, Milton Williams, Stone Forsythe, Khalil Herbert. Yeah, guys, I love you over at PFF, but stick to analytics because this is not working out. I'm looking at these guys right here.
Trey McKitty just went to 258, man.
I don't trust that. But I think tight end could be a pick. And I'm looking at these two guys right here. I'm looking at Isaiah McDuffie and John Bates. I like both of these guys.
You do. I think tight end is the move here, honestly. And I know we owe Gronk, but we need a young tight end. I think John Bates is a good move here.
Is he I don't know either one of these guys. Are they blockers? Can they block and catch?
So John Bates had an injury that he was working his way from. Let's see where Mr. Dan Brugler has him. He has Bates as a potential 6th-round pick from Boise State. 6'4", 256. Let's see, because the tight end is really low.
That's a big boy.
Go to the tight end position. Let's just see who else is there.
Yeah. I do like Isaiah McDuffie a lot. He is a special teams ace. We need a 4th linebacker. I think he makes a lot of sense. Kerry Angeline is another guy.
Second row.
John Bates. Overall, Bates is a dynamic pass-catching threat, but he is not a dynamic pass-catching threat. but he can be a serviceable short to intermediate target and an effective inline blocker. He projects as the classic wide tight end who will contribute on special teams day one.
That sounds pretty promising. I'm not gonna lie.
And then let's jump over to Isaiah McDuffie.
That sounds pretty promising. I'm not gonna lie.
And then let's jump over to Isaiah McDuffie.
That sounds pretty promising.
Isaiah McDuffie. Overall, McDuffie needs to play with better discipline, but he only knows one speed and flies around the field with a touch of insanity to him. He projects as a special teamer and linebacker depth.
What's your block?
What do you guys think?
I mean, Bates is a good move. If we're really looking for young tight ends and you need a blocking one, I think Bates seems like a guy to go to there.
You know what? We have our first comment of the thing besides Bobby Brown. We're going to make our new writer, Icewater Olson, happy here. We're going to take this Tony guy. I don't know who he is.
Sure.
We're gonna take Tony, the safety. Where is he at? Safety.
At the top, wasn't he?
No.
Is he a safety? Was he a tight end? I think it was a tight end.
Was he a tight end? Oh. Wait, I don't know what's going on. Oh, Tony Poljan, tight end for Virginia. Is that what
The pick is in. I made the decision.
The pick is in. Tony Poljan from tight end from Virginia. Draft is over. Let's see what we got graded as. Even though Jamin Davis went in the 7th, I'm sure they got an A+ for that. Greg Newsome in the 1st. Remember, we try to keep this realistic. B+. We got a C+ for Quinn Miners here. A C+ for Amari Rogers. An A- for Bobby Brown. Nice pick there, Leroy Williams from the chat. We got a B+ on the trade, which I don't know how. We traded back 6 spots, gave up a 7th, and got a 2nd rounder next year in the 4th round. Janarius Robinson got a C+. Elijah Mitchell, the Raging Cajun, got an A-. And Tony Poljan, tight end from Virginia, got a C+. An overall grade of a B+ from your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One last look at it. Greg Newsome, cornerback Northwestern. Quinn Miners, center from Wisconsin Whitewater. Amari Rogers, wide receiver Clemson. Bobby Brown, the 3rd, defensive lineman from Texas A&M, a 2nd-round pick next year. Janarius Robinson, edge rusher from Florida State. The Raging Cajun, Elijah Mitchell, running back from Louisiana. And Tony Poljan, tight end from Virginia. That is your mock draft. Guys, I'm excited about the draft. We're almost here. I can't wait for it. We're literally less than 2 days away now. What is it? Give me what's the countdown there? Jacob, what is it? 40.
48. We'll go 45-23 left on that.
45-23 to the draft. Make sure you tune right here to Bucs Report, to Jacob Charnow, the Hard Count Football Podcast. We're going to try to work with North Sports Dynasty. We're going to try to work a way we can get all of us on here with all of our shows simulcast at the same time. We're going to try to make it happen for you. We'll be popping in and out of each other's shows. It's going to be a great time. Don't forget to go out, check out too. Yes, I see the comment down there. Fergs. Make sure you guys get out to Fergs. It's going to be a great time out there for sure.
I'm stuck here in New Jersey, guys. So,
that stinks. I feel bad for you. But we're going to have a great time out at Fergs. Plus, I don't think you're old enough to go there anyways. I'm trying to look for the flyer. I don't think I have it loaded. I'll make sure. Yes, sir.
You notice the one thing that we didn't draft in that draft?
What did we didn't draft? A quarterback.
There you go. We didn't draft a single quarterback.
We didn't draft a quarterback. You guys, make sure you check out the Fergs. We're going to have a great draft party. Check into the over-under tomorrow night. Johnny Dean, thank you as always for popping on. Great support towards the end. Appreciate you. Tell them where they can find you.
Later, guys.
That's where you can find them. Later, guys. Jacob Charnow, my co-host. Let's get you out of here. We went from 8:30 to 10:38. We got a long show for you. And that's just
bro. We went from 7 to 10:30 tonight in total.
Yeah, 7 to 10:30.
We were live for 3.5 hours. It's
draft season. I had a lot of fun.
Together.
I'm not done. I got to go off and write an article as soon as I get off of here. Pay attention, a little attention to my wife. Probably drink something, an adult beverage, and then get to an article.
I have homework and food upstairs for me. So.
Perfect. Go ahead. Tell them where they can find you. Tell them about your draft show, and go ahead promote yourself there, Jacob.
Yeah, guys, check out the Hard Count Football Podcast on YouTube and SoundCloud, and then check out the Hard Count Football Podcast live Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on Bucs Report. Guys, this Thursday, we have a ton of draft stuff. When you're watching, if you're watching over there watching the boys over at Fergs and you're like, I want to see what Jacob's doing, head on over the Hard Count Football YouTube channel. I'll be live reacting to every single pick, laughing at whatever's going on. Probably something cool is going to happen, and you're going to want to see my reaction to it because I'm a very emotional person. Probably something with the Jets. So follow me on Twitter at Jacob Charnow, Instagram at Hard Count Football. Keep you updated on all that information. But Joshua, man, this was fun. This was a lot of fun. I'm really happy I got to co-host with you. Great edition of the Audible. Draft is Thursday. Man, it's going to be something else, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. I can't wait for this draft to get underway. After months of preparation, after a thrilling Super Bowl victory for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, being able to cover that, be a part of that was amazing. But now covering the draft and seeing what's next and what next young wave of talent is going to come in here to Tampa Bay and help them try to repeat as champions, it's going to be great. Jacob, I want to thank you so much for being my co-host, especially after having your show. Again, we went almost what is it, 4 hours now of draft coverage on a Tuesday night, bringing it to you here as only Bucs Report can. Jacob, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon, my man.
Appreciate it, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
So there you guys have it. We're going to wrap the show up right now. What a show it was, starting with the Hard Count Football Podcast at 7, coming on to the Audible Special Draft Edition right now. We had amazing guests on. We had Austin, Gayle. We had Ben Linsey of PFF. Both came on here, broke down some draft, broke down some specific Buccaneer stuff. Make sure you catch the replay to catch all of their knowledge, all of their stuff. We went over my mock draft and see how I did, if I screwed up, if I didn't screw up. We'll have my next mock draft coming out Thursday, the final one of the year. I can't wait to bring it to you. Tomorrow we'll have a locker room mock draft. Locker Room app, if you don't know what it is, it's an app that's changing the way people talk sports. It's an audio-based app where you can go on and you can talk with people about whatever you want, different sports, watch parties for show. I know there's going to be a ton of draft watch parties on there to tune into that as well while you're watching Bucs Report. You can also go on there and talk basketball, football, and just other stuff I think they're doing right now. They're doing a versus battle about New York rappers versus Atlanta rappers and who's going to win that epic face-off of music. So, they've got a lot of stuff going on there. And now I've been teasing it. Get on the Locker Room app if you're on the Google Play Store because the Android beta is out. Get on there. If you're on Apple, what are you doing? You should have already downloaded it. But the Android beta is out. Get out there. Get on Locker Room. Communicate with me. Me and John Lenny, the Pewter Report's going to do a great draft recap show next week. So make sure you guys are tuning in for that. Fergs, Thursday and Friday, draft party, drinks, specials, giveaways. I'm hearing there might be some signed merchandise, might be some jerseys there, might be some really cool Devin White riding a horse bobbleheads, all to give away. Drink specials, food specials, draft coverage from wall to wall both nights. Me coming live to you on Thursday. Friday, we're all going to be there. Rick Hughes is in town from Carolina, so get down there just to meet Rick Hughes. He's only down here once in a while. Get down there to meet him. It's going to be a great time. I can't wait for that. Guys, we've got a lot of things going on here at Bucs Report, a lot of articles coming out about the draft. I know everyone is probably getting sick of it, but we're almost here, less than 2 days away. I want to thank everyone for stopping by and being part of the show, whether you commented, whether you watched, whether you liked, whether you shared. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. The Audible will be back at its normal time next Thursday, but thanks for tuning into this special edition. Guys, I appreciate you. I can't wait for the draft to get here. And you know what? Let's see what additions this Super Bowl winning champion Buccaneers team will make on draft night. That's going to do it for me. Thanks for tuning into the Audible on Bucs Report, where you can make the right call every week with the Audible right here, only exclusively on Bucs Report. We'll talk to you guys later.
We them Bucs, and we taking over. 31 teams, best look over your shoulder. We them Bucs. It's our time to shine. They ain't never gonna stop, and we on the grind, and we the Bucs. Our team is louder, putting fear up in the league, and they folding cower. We them Bucs, and we winning it all. The ship is in our backyard, and this year is ours.